Tehát visszatértem, hello üdv mindenkinek. Olyat keresünk, hogy... Na. Path of Exile. Let's go. Let's go. Na, mit szóltok? Gyorsan... Szia Ricsi, hello! Szia Reptile, csöcső! Szevasztok, srácok! Hey. Bocs, csak kell nekem egy másik ablak. Druid pova! Az nem létezik. Ja, mert itt még nem volt, igen, mert itt még nem volt hangja, pillanat. Pillanat. Pillanat, mert ezt még nem használtam, ezt a... Egy fél pillantás türelmet. Ugye lusta vagyok beállítgatni mindenhol, így mindig akkor éppen azon nyomban, ahol éppen nyomjuk, ott beállítgatom, és akkor idővel mindenhol be lesz állítgatva, de kösz, hogy szóltál, Bugi. Mert én hallom, csak ti nem halljátok. Még pólót is kéne cserélnem, csak gyorsan le akartam indítani.
Versenyzés közben sem volt, de vezetés közben nem nyomkodjuk a telefonböt sem.
Na most milyen volt? Jó volt?
Szépen írok.
Szépen írsz, Bugi. Azt kell, hogy mondjam. Nem, majd mindjárt erről is beszélünk, vendég, majd mindjárt erről is beszélünk, csak pólót kell cserélnem, mielőtt ez elindul, és 1 percem van, úgyhogy mindjárt itt vagyok.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rogers, Game Director on Path of Exile 2, and welcome to GGG Live. Today we're going to show you an exclusive reveal for what's coming next for Path of Exile 2. Twitch drops are enabled on today's live stream, so you'll be able to claim your Verdant Wilds dodge roll effect by following the instructions below. Now today it's finally time to show off a new class that we know everyone in the community's been waiting for. So let's roll the trailer for Path of Exile 2, The Last of the Druids.
Well, well. What have we got here then?
You lost, fella?
Hey, we're talking to you.
Liba
I
bőrvezéjére.
asked you a question.
We're What's wrong with him?
He's lost his bloody mind.
Sárkány baszki.
I will find you, Eve.
Now, as you can see, the Druid is a shape-shifting elemental spellcaster. After his
Let
fellow
me-
druids were destroyed by the King in the Mists,
Félig
the Druid
láttam.
lost his humanity in the forests of Ogham, where he wandered for years as a beast. Now, finally reawakened, he's determined to find his lost wife and regain his humanity. The Druid has been one of the hardest classes for us to design. As well as having human spells, he has 3 animal forms, and we wanted to make sure that there were interesting combos between all of them.
3
The
animal
Druid is our
forms,
first
mi a
hybrid
harmadik?
strength and intelligence class. That means he needs to have the ability to use spells and
Verber,
attacks.
werwolf, és mi
As
a
a human,
harmadik?
the Druid typically uses magical staves to harness the powers of the earth and the natural world.
Keep and build.
One of the first skills you will learn is the ability to create small volcanoes from the earth. This skill spits out balls of magma at your enemies, and will continue to do so for some
Sky.
time. While the volcano is active, turn into an animal and wade into melee range. Many of the skills you use as a human last for a significant period of time, giving you a good chance to turn into an animal and rage out. But how do you turn into an animal, you may ask? Well, the answer is a new weapon type that druids use, animal talismans.
Oh,
When you equip an animal talisman, you can choose which animal form you would like the talisman to represent. Depending on what you choose, you'll be given that animal's basic attack as a new skill to equip. For a bear, that's maul. To turn into a bear, simply use the skill. Your character will instantly transform into a bear and attack. If you want to change back to a human, just cast a spell. You will instantly swap back and cast it. We wanted to make sure that swapping between forms was seamless and immediate. Changing forms should be something that you do without even thinking about it all the time in battle. In order to allow for hybrid melee and caster gameplay, most of the skills you use in your human form last for some time and aid your animal skills in some way. The volcano we used earlier will emit more molten balls whenever you hit it with a slam, making it perfect for use with your bear form's furious slam. While in bear form, many of your abilities use rage. There are a lot of ways to generate
Hát de
rage, but the
12 nem a
easiest one is simply
D4-ről fog
smash your
szólni
enemies with
síva
maul.
röhögő sarc.
hát nem.
Once you see the runes on your back glowing, it means you have enough rage to do a much more devastating version of your furious slam.
Ez kurva jól néz ki.
Your bear form can also go on a rampage, stomping the ground as you demolish your foes.
Az de király, menj már.
The more
Egy
rage you
bajom
have,
van
the
még
longer
ezzel,
the
majd
rampage
elmondom.
lasts. And doing it over a volcano makes it even better. As you consume rage, your bear form will generate endurance charges, and these can be used with skills like Ferocious Roar. Ferocious Roar is a war cry that empowers your subsequent attacks to break your opponent's armor. The more endurance charges you have when you use it, the more empowered attacks you will gain. But Ferocious Roar has another special feature too. It's a meta gem that allows you to socket any Warcry gem from another class into it, giving you the ability to use these skills as a bear. Use the Warrior's Infernal Cry skill to make your enemies explode.
Ó. Az király. Be lehet ragni más klasszoknak a izét is, és akkor
Or use
felrobbannak
Seismic Cry
például
to
a...
stun your enemies and double up the number of slams you do.
Az igen, hallod? Na
You
ez
can
most már
even
így
use it
nem
with
volt
Ancestral
rossz.
Call, a skill that turns you into the fire god Kaun. Ever wondered what the Karui
Okay,
god
okay,
of war
okay,
would
yeah,
look like if he
that
was a bear? Well, wait no longer. Finally, build up enough rage and you can use one of the bear's ultimate abilities, Walking Calamity. This skill summons a storm of fire around you for some time, while generating even more rage to power your other abilities. A true bear-pocalypse. Now the bear is known for being a slower and more lumbering animal, with slower attacks and heavy slams. But what if you want to turn into something a little
Hűha
more
meglepett
nimble?
arc.
Well, let's check out the second animal form for the druid, wolf form.
Állatul néz ki,
For the wolf
bazzeg.
form, we want it to go fast and furious. Even just the wolf's basic attack will leap forward and rake his foes. After attacking, the wolf stands up on two legs, but after running for a short time, he goes back on all fours, allowing to move more quickly between packs of enemies. The wolf has a lot of cold attacks based on his association with the moon, and the first of these is Lunar Assault. It's great for freezing your enemies in place. After they're frozen, use your basic rake attack to knock shards of ice off your enemies, which land on the ground nearby and explode. If you want to get into battle quickly, you can use your pounce attack. This skill leaps at a target and applies a mark to them. Killing the marked enemy will summon a wolfman into your side, allowing them to fight with you. Mark and kill as many enemies as you can to build up a sizable pack. While an enemy is marked, your wolves will prioritize that target and do more damage the more wolves you have. So make sure you keep your pack strong. Now, one problem you might run into is your wolf pack dying in boss fights. You often don't have any enemies that you can mark and kill in order to regenerate your pack. To deal with this problem, you can use Cross Slash. Cross Slash jumps backwards and does a vicious double slash. Any marks on your target explode and triggers their abilities. This allows you to pounce to mark an enemy and then summon a wolf even without killing them. Cross Slash also has another feature though. Remember those ice fragments from before? Well, Cross Slash will propel any ice shards on the ground towards its central target. First, freeze your enemies with Lunar Assault. Then rake them to create as many ice fragments as you can. Then follow up with Cross Slash to generate a field of icy explosions to obliterate your enemies. If they're still alive after that, your pack of wolves can finish them off. Just like with the bear's raw skill earlier that allows you to use skills from other classes, Pounce is also a metagem that you can socket mark skills from other classes into. So for example, you might want to try adding Freezing Mark from the Monk to Pounce. After pouncing at an enemy, Cross Slash to explode the mark and gain extra cold damage for a time. The Wolf has many other ways to go all in on cold though. Using the Arctic Howl Warcry will allow you to add cold damage and chilled ground to any slam, while buffing your pack of wolves as well. You can also use it to freeze enemies that are close to being frozen, making it much faster to use your other combos. Finally, the wolf also has the ability to call down the power of the moon to transform into an Arctic werewolf with Lunar Blessing.
Az igen.
In this form, you move and attack more quickly and deal extra cold damage. Consuming Rage will extend the duration of your Arctic wolf form, so you could try a hybrid bear and wolf build if you want to utilize the skill to its full effect. Alright, let's talk about the third form available to the Druid, and I think it's a cool one. The Wyvern. The Wyvern has a number of long-range breath abilities, but that doesn't mean you can't get into melee range when you want to. The basic attack of the Wyvern is Rend. Jump forward into combat and slash your enemies with your lethal talons. If they're close to being stunned, you can blow them off balance with a blast from your wings, causing an explosion of damage. After the battle though, it's time to feed. Devour the corpses of monsters to create power charges, and this is when the Wyvern's abilities really come online. When using Rend, you can consume a power charge to charge up your wings with lightning. Not only does this do a bunch of damage, but it
Nézzük
allows
végig,
you to turn
vendéges
this melee
megtudjuk.
skill into a much larger AoE attack. Once your wings are charged, your Wing Blast will also do lightning explosions for even more damage. If your enemies are close to death, no need to wait for them to actually die. When you see this blue marker, just devour them alive. Fresh meat is much tastier after all. Alright, so those are some melee options, but how about range? Well, you wouldn't be much of a dragon if you couldn't breathe fire after all. Rolling Magma is the first of the Wyvern's breath attacks. Spit balls of fire that bounce along the ground. These balls will trigger volcanoes as well, so it's a good idea to cast one as a human right before you start spitting. But that's not all you can spit. You have something a little nastier in that gullet of yours.
Az de kemény.
Spitting a barrage of oil at your enemies will cover them in a viscous sludge that makes them easier to ignite. If you have power charges though, plant your wings in the ground and vomit a barrage of lightning-infused projectiles. The more power charges you have, the longer you can do this for. But make sure you keep your foes at range. You're vulnerable to melee attacks while channeling this skill. In order to help with that, let's take a quick diversion back to some of your human abilities. As a Druid of Scoth, you have the ability to harness the power of nature to create
Az de
entangling
királyul
vines
néz ki,
to
hogy
slow down your enemies.
az a ványok
Another of
lefogják,
nature's
az
punishments
kurva
is the
jól
thunderstorm.
nézett ki.
Creating one of these will create periodic strikes of lightning from the sky, and will also make your enemies wet. Why is that useful? Well, of course,
Lol.
things that are wet are easier to shock.
LOL.
Use it with lightning damage from your wyvern form to enhance your damage. Making things wet also makes them easier to freeze, so it works nicely with your wolf form as well. And you know what else likes water? Plants. Water your plants to give them various extra abilities. Use Lightning Storm with Entangle to make them last
The vines
longer,
is kurva
and
jól
attach
néz
more
ki.
vines to each enemy, slowing them further. Summon Thrashing Vines to slam at your enemies for a time. Any that are created in water will be larger and deal more damage. Now then, with our enemies sufficiently subdued with our plants, time to really lay into them with our lightning-infused barrage.
Azon én nem vagyok híve az ilyen channeling varázslatoknak, az nekem
Now,
annyira nem
this
jön
last
be.
wyvern ability is just ridiculous, but we felt like we had to do it. Use Flame Breath to take to the skies and rain down a stream of fire on your enemies. You have wings, so we have to take full advantage
Aha,
of them
na
after
ez
all.
király.
So fly around and burn in it.
Azt a kurva! Wow! És figyeld, kiégette a gazt is maga alól, az úgy megvan, hogy kiégette
Now,
a
there are a few other skills we
termést,
didn't cover, but there's
a
one in particular that I
terményeket,
think will open up a lot of
láttátok?
builds.
Menj
Spell
már a
totems.
faszomba.
Spell totems are metagems that let you create a totem that will automatically cast any spell in the game for a time. In order to create one, you will need to spend 3 endurance or 3 power charges. You could use them to throw fireballs, summon comets, or shower the area in lightning. Really,
Még
the options
totemet
are
is
kind of
tudsz lerakni,
endless.
az király.
Your bear form can easily generate endurance charges by consuming rage, and your wyvern form can easily create power charges by eating corpses. So it's pretty easy for the druid to get the charges needed, but they're also available from quite a few other places as well. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of different spellcaster classes thinking about how best to take advantage of these. Now, of course,
mennyire
along with
Zora.
a new class comes a bunch of new support gems. We've added over 30 new supports throughout the game, but I'll show you a few of the cooler ones here. Fan the Flames
Már
can be
most
added to
bocsánatot
any wind
kérsz a
skill to spread
sortitól,
fire from
de
one
ne.
ignited enemy to the other enemies behind them.
Ez
It's great for the
brutál.
Wyvern's Wing Blast. But you can also use it on many other classes with wind skills, like the Twisters on the Huntress, or the Monk's Staggering Palm Projectiles.
Oh!
Accelerated growth causes extra explosive plants to erupt from the ground whenever you grow plants with rain. And Advancing Storm changes storm skills like your Thunderstorm or Tornado to move across the battlefield. It's great for watering plants en masse, or to turn tornadoes into a real disaster by sucking up multiple ground effects as they travel along.
Ez a tornádó, azt a rohadt, hogy néz ki, a
And
de
the Sorceress might
durva.
like to use it with Firestorm as well. Echoing Cry causes your Warcry skills to echo. They will repeat a couple more
Ah,
times
ez
with a delay
beteg.
after you use them, giving
Ez
you more
nagyon
empowered
beteg.
attacks. Use it for the Druid's animal form Warcries, or on the Warrior for a nice power boost.
Jézusom.
Grounding Shocks causes monsters you shock to turn into living Tesla coils, arcing lightning to nearby enemies. You could use it with your empowered wings for an extra damage boost, but it's also great with any other shocking skill. Try it out with Lightning Spear. It obviously needed more AoE
Ugye?
clear.
Ugye?
There's a whole pile more.
Én
but
is
we'll
úgy
leave those
gondolom,
for
hogy
you to
ezzel
discover.
játszanunk kell. Ez meg easy,
Now with
hallod?
a new class comes new Ascendancy
Mint a
classes.
Jefferson
The Druid will
D2-ben
have 2
láttad?
options for now, with a third being released later. The first class is the Shaman. The Shaman channels nature's elemental fury and can harness rage as a spellcaster, unifying his animalistic and magical tendencies.
Á, ez is brutál
By
egyébként, de sima
allocating
sámán.
Druidic Champion, you gain spell damage the angrier you are. And with Furious Wellspring, you generate rage continuously and can spend it to empower your spells.
Az igen.
With the knowledge of the Asmerian Magi, the Shaman can harness untapped power from runes and idols. After allocating Wisdom of the Magi, you will notice that all runes and idols have extra mods only available to the Shaman. These new mods unlock countless new possibilities for enhancing your build. You can also allocate Bringer of the Apocalypse, allowing you to become a walking natural disaster. After dealing enough elemental damage, storms of all elements rain around you, destroying all who would face nature's fury. There are other abilities for the Shaman, but I'll just show a few from each class for now. The other Druid ascendancy is the Oracle. The Oracle perfected the power of foresight and utilizes this in combat to gain massive advantage. When taking Fateful Vision, you will see visions of your future self using specific skills. If you decide to follow this path by using the skill yourself, it will do significantly more damage. And with converging paths, at a critical moment in battle when a monster is vulnerable to freeze, stun, or electrocution, the Oracle can use Moment of Vulnerability to see a vision of the enemy's future, and then merge it with the current timeline, allowing him to deal damage to both. And one of my favorites, when you first become an Oracle, you'll notice over 130 new extra passives appear in the Druid section of the tree. By allocating the unseen path, you use your power of foresight to learn from alternate futures and gain skills that would otherwise be unavailable to you. For example, self-sacrificing allows you to be able to summon more minions by reducing the spirit costs, with the trade-off of making your reservation skills cost more spirit. Or Corruption Endures, which allows Oracles to have a small chance to avoid death. Both the Druid Ascendancies offer interesting and unique ways to gain modifiers that no other classes can get, so we're expecting a huge variety of build possibilities from these. Now there are unique talismans for the Druid to use as well.
Path of Exile,
Won't spoil all of them, but this one was particularly cool. Fury of the King turns your bear form into a fire demon, converting most of your damage to fire. As a demon, you can also use Molten Crash, a jumping slam attack that leaves fissures around you. This unique also continuously grants glory, allowing you to use your ultimate abilities more easily. Now, of course, the Druid isn't the only thing we're adding to 040. We still have a bunch more to show. With every new release, we create a new league with new mechanics, new pinnacle bosses, and with a new story to tell. And this time is no exception. So let's roll the trailer for the fate of the Val.
The palace of Queen Atziri. It is a ruin, but in the dark, machines still.
Most a liga izét mutatják be. Természetesen a druiddal.
The temple has many functions, and with it, a chance to save
What? Így kell majd építkezni, meg menj már a fenébe.
Travel into the past, again and again. Alter the temple, uncover its secrets. You will be rewarded for your sacrifice. And somewhere in the deepest chamber, my queen awaits.
Nem, a kérdés úgy hangzik,
Hear me.
hogy melyik druidával melyik karaktert kell játszani.
You have studied it, Doriani, but you do not know it like I do. It adores me.
Na nél már még le is vetkőzik itt nekünk.
Come now, give unto me your desire. At last, fulfill my soul.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile. In the Fate of the Vaal League, you will find remnants of the ancient Vaal civilization scattered throughout Rayclast. They seem to attract nearby creatures and affect them strangely.
De jól néznek ki.
After killing them, the remnant appears to gain some amount of power, but not enough to fully activate it. It seems you will need to find 5 more of these arcane devices, and sacrifice the monsters you find there to fully activate one.
Yeah.
But things don't always go to plan. These devices are old, and sometimes infected by corruption. Twisted versions of ancient Vaal may emerge, and sometimes even stronger foes. On fully activating one of the devices, you finally discover its true purpose. A portal opens and takes you deep underground to a lost temple, once the home of Atziri, Queen of the Vaal. What treasures could still be inside? I think you're gonna want to find out. In front of the entrance is a console of some kind, and on activating it, you can see a map of the temple. Atziri's personal chambers are on the far side, but how could anyone get there? There are disconnected rooms, and the layout doesn't seem to make sense. And that's when you realize the purpose of the ancient devices scattered through Rayclast. The temple is powered by sacrifice, and this energy can be used to modify the very structure of the temple itself. Each time you run the temple, you will be given 6 rooms that you can place, allowing you to craft your own dungeon to explore. Place paths to link up the dungeon, and place rooms beside them full of precious loot. After you are happy with your choices, open the temple and discover the results of your efforts. Each room contains different challenges along with its rewards. On entering a room, the doors will slam shut behind you and you will need to face the encounter within. But choose wisely. It's important where you place the rooms to get maximum returns. For example, when placing a commander, you could just place it anywhere along an existing path, but a much better strategy is to place it next to a garrison of troops for him to command. With better leadership, the garrison will level up, making the monsters harder, but also more rewarding. Different rooms have different requirements for leveling up. For example, if you want to fully level up a smithy, you will need to supply it with golems from an adjacent golem works, and hook up a generator to the power network to supply it with power. After doing so, the golems will be powered up, making them much more dangerous. You don't need to memorize what interacts with what. When selecting a room, you will be shown the locations that will make other rooms level up, and exactly what effect it will have on the temple. After running the temple, a few of the rooms will destabilize and be removed. It will be up to you to rebuild the temple, adding 6 more rooms each time you come back, making the temple larger and larger and larger.
Basta.
So, that's the basic functionality of the temple, but there is a lot more. Once Doriani finds out about your travels to Leraval, he will attempt to persuade you to take on a new mission. The temple entrance contains a prototype of the time portal device. It will be able to take you back in time, but only to one specific point, right before Atziri triggered the cataclysm that destroyed the Vaal. He requests that you go back and attempt to stop Atziri to prevent the Vaal from ever being destroyed. Atziri is on the far side of the temple, so you will need to expand the temple significantly to get to her. And even worse, her chambers can only be unlocked by a room that isn't currently accessible to you. In order to deal with that, you are going to need to visit the architect of the temple. To get to him, you will need to place path rooms, but while doing so, you will probably want to exploit some of the Vaal technology only available in the past. Once you can travel into the past, a whole new set of rooms are available to you, and they have some pretty insane rewards. At level 1, the corruption chamber can be used to corrupt a single item. But placing it next to a thaumaturge to run the place, and a sacrificial chamber to provide soul energy, you'll be able to level it up. And it's worth it, because once you get the room to level 3, there are some very nice rewards to be had. In a level 3 corruption chamber, you will find this mysterious device. It has a slot to place an item, and it only accepts items that are already corrupted. What will happen to them? Well, normally once an item is corrupted, you can't modify it any further. But this device allows you to corrupt your item a second time, adding another enchantment. This has the capability to craft some very powerful items indeed.
Vice Corrupted.
But be warned, the Vaal are all about taking risks in the pursuit of power. There is a 50% chance that the item will be destroyed.
Az igen. 50-50, hogy destroyolja az itemet, az zsír. Hoppá, az destroyolta.
Each room has its own interesting mechanics and rewards when it levels up. Many of them contain bosses to fight, special drops, and in many cases, new crafting opportunities. For example, a level 3 alchemy lab has a nasty Vaal construct to fight, but if you can defeat it, you can find new corrupted soul cores. Like Guatalitzi's Thesis, which on boots allows you to sacrifice your life to run faster.
Az igen.
Or Sita Qualotl's Thesis, which on gloves will revive one of your minions whenever an offering expires. Get a sacrificial chamber to level 3, and you will need to face a highborn priest of sacrifice. Defeat him to be able to further corrupt a Vaal unique, modifying it in unpredictable ways. One of the mods of this unique will be removed and replaced with another random mod. For example, this Soul Mantle. It gives you an additional totem, but lowers your totem's life and curses you when they die. By using the machine, this could result in a terrible item if you remove the good mod, but also some amazing items if you replace the downside. Now, one extra thing to mention about these Vaal crafting machines. You don't have to take the items you want to craft into the temple. If you don't have the item you want to craft with you at the time, then clicking this button will allow you to create a currency item instead, allowing you to do the craft later or trade it if you want. Now, there are all sorts of interesting rooms you can find in the temple, but the last one I want to show you today is the Flesh Surgeon. A Vaal Flesh Surgeon can be leveled up by placing him next to a high-level synth flesh lab. But be careful. The Flesh Surgeon has some rather unpleasant experiments in his personal lab. Afterwards, you might notice the surgery table just sitting there. The Vaal are great at crafting items. Why not do some crafting on yourself? After laying down, you'll be asked which limb you'd like to replace. Left arm, perhaps your right leg. Each limb can get a different set of random bonuses, so choose wisely. After getting up from the table, try out your new limb. It seems to work fine, and even perform better than your normal one. Now, there is just one thing with replacing body parts. If you die and are resurrected, your body will return to its natural state. You might need to return to the Vaal Surgeons if you want another robot arm, and maybe get a better one next time. Some rooms, like the Commander, can give you a new type of reward. Medallions that can be used to manipulate the temple in other ways. Using a Quipa medallion will allow you to artificially boost a room, even if it doesn't meet the normal requirements to level up. And a Huatalotli's medallion will stop rooms from destabilizing when you complete a temple, allowing you to guarantee getting a reward a second time. Great if you want to stock up on double corrupts. Now, with all that aside, time to face the Architect, and you will be in for a fight. Once defeated, you will find another console that can be used to modify the temple. But this one is special. It allows you to place new types of rooms with specific rewards. There are rooms with specific uniques, special runes, and currency. But also a few other, more niche crafting experiments. Like this one, that can extract the soccer balls back out of an item, at the cost of destroying it. Now, something really important is every league we release a significant amount of content for the endgame. In order to make sure that the Fate of the Veil works well for late game players, we've added many mechanics to make sure that you can scale the difficulty and rewards to match. Getting some rooms to level 3 adds extra mods to the entire dungeon, and these stack with each other. So in endgame, when you can get some really big temples, you can generate a challenge that can even match the strongest of characters. We also start to introduce ways to store up energy for the temple, allowing you to save up many runs so you can do them later at your leisure and not interrupt your mapping too often. Now in each league, it's important that we have a new pinnacle boss to test your character's might. In the Fate of the Veil, you will get to face Adziri while she was at the peak of her power. One of the rewards you will gain by defeating the Architect is the ability to place the Royal Access Chamber. Once connected to your temple, you can visit it to finally reach the Queen of the Veil herself. This fight takes place at a critical moment in history, right as Adziri communes with the beast's power and takes her true corrupted form.
4 cickója lett a vértől.
Now, we are not going to show you the whole fight, but we will tempt you with one of the rewards. This is Adziri's rule. This staff gives additional levels to all of your corrupted gems and lets you trade life for extra damage. But in addition to that, while using the staff, mirrors of refraction will constantly appear on the battlefield. Any projectile you fire at these will split into a nova, and they can chain from one to the other. So, that's the Fate of the Veil League. But we are also bringing the previous league, Rise of the Abyssal, into the core game, along with a few changes.
Nem mondod, és
Now,
behozzák
for those of you who haven't seen what happens when a league is over, it's important to understand that you will not be seeing abysses in every area anymore.
Ez zsír.
Rise of the Abyssal is now one of the league mechanics that can show up randomly in endgame.
Oh my god. Király.
If you want to specialize in running abysses, there is now a tablet that will allow you to add them to any map you run. You can also craft the tablet to add abyss-specific mods to enhance how they function.
Nice.
Now that Abyss is core, it also needs its own Atlas tree.
Oh, és van Atlas tree
You
is
can
már.
gain your first points by completing an Abyss,
De nagy.
but there are more available for doing depths and killing certain bosses. And there are a bunch of different options. You might just want more monsters and bosses, but you can also make finishing an Abyss have a chance to overrun a nearby map with the Abyssal,
Zsír.
or make your Waystone modifiers also apply to Abyssal depths. You could specialize in the interaction with other leagues, or specialize in a specific Abyssal faction. One of the important elements that we have heard loud and clear is that needing to do Abyss crafting on Waystones is quite annoying. So, we have removed that. In fact, we have removed instilling from Waystones as well. This mechanic felt mandatory on maps because it boosted the value of all other content, but it was both annoying to do and resulted in a lot of visual clutter. Instead, we are bringing back some of that power on tablets, which you don't need to craft nearly as often, since they last for 10 maps each. Once you defeat the Arbiter of Ash, you will be able to upgrade tablets to a rare with 4 mods using regular currency.
Az igen.
Even this isn't enough to fully bring back the power you could have gotten from instilling, so we have also buffed the bonuses that tablets give. Going forward, we're not going to be adding any more crafting directly to Waystones outside of the basic currency, because it adds too much micromanagement.
Ó,
But
hát
on that
már...
note, Fate of the Veil does bring the ability to corrupt your
Ó,
tablets.
bazzak, ezeket fogják
Hoping to get one
kárulni,
of
aki
many
igazán
different random
csöböl
outcomes.
lesz. Tuti.
Now, with regard to Delirium Fog, even though you shouldn't have to have it on every map
Ez
anymore,
mennyire
we still
durva.
did want to make it less visually annoying. Delirium Fog has been toned down significantly, so you won't feel like you're just playing in a sea of grey. Another big source of problems in the endgame is the feeling of getting overwhelmed with monsters. In 031, we reduced the number of monsters in early
Yes.
endgame in order to help with this.
Most
But
mongol
still
kezdjek vagy
scaled up the
druidot,
number of
baszki, ne
monsters to
már.
previous
Jaj, ne
levels
már ennyi,
by the time you got to
jaj,
tier
sokat
50.
kell poéznunk most.
Well, after letting this simmer for a while,
Hogy fogunk
we are still
vitarkozni,
getting this
bazd meg?
kind of feedback. So we are no longer going to scale up the number of monsters you go as you get deeper into the endgame. Instead, we are scaling up the difficulty and
Azért ez
rewards
is
by the same
kemény.
amount.
Hallod? What the
So
fuck?
to be
Oda
clear,
néz.
instead of increasing the number
Mi a
of monsters by 40%, they will instead drop
Okay,
40%
okay.
more items,
Ez király.
grant 40% more
Azt a-
experience, and have 40% more life.
Azt
In addition
a-
to all the normal scaling they get due to being higher level. This only applies to
yeah.
regular monsters, not bosses. We have also reduced the speed modifiers that monsters can get sometimes, which also helps a lot with this. Now, we did have a large amount of content for
Figyeltétek a
in-game playing
cuccokat?
for 040, but unfortunately we just didn't get time to finish it. The scope was a bit too large, and so we would need to wait until 050 for that. But rest assured, there will be a ton of upgrades for the existing leagues, as well as new pinnacle bosses, and a significant overhaul to the Atlas passive tree coming soon.
Itt így megy,
Now,
Bugi.
another problem
Üdvözöllek a
that
Path
becomes
of
a much
Exile
bigger
2
issue in the
világába.
endgame is game performance.
Ez nem Diablo
And we
4.
have done a lot of work here. The primary issue is
Hát ez
CPU
nagyon
load.
beteg.
And to address that, a lot of things have been optimized. And we have done a lot of work to take advantage of more of your CPU cores. You should see frame rates of at least 25% higher. And a lot less bad frame spikes
És
during
még
gameplay.
optimalizálták is a
It
játékot.
does make quite a big difference, especially on consoles. A lot more work in this area is ongoing, and you will continue to see performance improvements over the next few months. Of course, another important area is game balance, and we have made a lot of changes. Now, most of these we will save for the patch notes, but I'll do a quick summary of some of the numbers. As well as adding 11 new unique items, we have rebalanced dozens of others that are not currently used very often. We've also done a pass over lineage supports. 21 of them have been rebalanced, as well as adding 9 more. Alongside the 2 new Druid ascendancies, we have made balance changes to almost all the others, with some of them getting a grander rebalance, such as the Smith of Katava. Alongside the 20 plus new Druid skills, we've also rebalanced 90 other active skills across all the different classes. And to top it all off, there are also over 250 new passive skills added to the passive tree.
Azt kurva.
These changes should go a long way to increase the viability of many more skills, uniques, and overall build variety that can tackle our most challenging content. Next up, we're going to be talking about our new supporter packs. Today, we're launching 2 new series of supporter packs, the Precursor and Kalgurin packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face value in points, alongside several exclusive microtransactions. As always, the microtransactions in these packs are purely cosmetic and do not affect your character's power or progression in any way.
Hát nem.
The Precursor series of supporter packs contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. First up, the Marble Statue character effect. Once you finally stay still for a moment, a podium rises up out of the ground to immortalize you,
Lol.
turning your skin to marble.
Lol.
When you next move, the stone crumbles around
Ez
you.
de kemény.
The
300
Precursors had
ponté mondjuk
mastery over
ez
gravity
eléggé
manipulation.
durva.
So too can you, now with the gravity well
Az
pulled.
igen.
Witness the power of its pull as you approach it. Draw in enemies with your own gravitational pull with the Awakened Precursor armor set. The Precursors designed and built many mysterious ancient beings.
Ja, ez
This
de
one used to
király.
serve as a scout that would patrol and tase intruders. Why salvage gear yourself when the Master of the Forge can do it for you?
Valamiből meg kell élni.
Molten gold spills out as the Forge Master breaks down your items.
Kurva jól néz ki, hogy üti a...
The relic of the Precursor's map device is a mysterious machine that sits atop ancient colossal statues. It keeps track of the number of charges consumed on your Precursor tablets used in the device. The Kalgurin pack series also contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. The Kalgurans had astounding skill in astronomy, being able to track cosmic events with absolute precision. Harnessing that skill, with the astronomer's level up effect equipped, you too can now see exactly how long it took you to level up as it outputs the time in chat.
Ilyen lesz a level up, hogyha
The
ezt
time taken
megveszed.
to reach your last 3 levels is also displayed on the item, so you can link it when you have a time you're proud of.
Az
Crush
igen,
unique enemies
láttad?
by unleashing the wrath of the lost Kalguran fleet, led formerly by Captain Heartland himself. A Kalguran seafarer needs armor fit for the treacherous
De
seas of
keményen néz
Raycross.
ki.
This set has you covered with the classic tricorn and, of course, a peg leg. The Lost Treasure weapon skins top off your appearance of a true raider of the seas. These gilded weapons can be applied to wands, two-hand maces, and shields. After a long day of plundering loot, retreat to the Kraken's Cove hideout, a home of some of the most deadly ocean-dwelling creatures in Raycross. Many ships have met their demise here. What better to accompany you in Kraken's Cove than a kraken itself? Replace your stash with a dormant kraken waiting for its prey. As you approach, it will awaken and terrify both you and any guests in your hideout. Alongside this, an extra stash skin item will be granted to you, and when placed, will automatically open to any stash tab set with the currency affinity, to help having to navigate through your tabs. Additionally, any microtransactions from the supporter packs will be made available for use in Path of Exile 1. Thank you very much for all your ongoing support. We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Afterwards, at 11 AM NZ time, we'll post the patch notes. With release at the end of next week, our community team will be posting crucial information you'll need for the release. Keep an eye on the news. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments. We're looking forward to playing alongside our fellow shapeshifting exiles, all while uncovering Lost Val secrets by doing some dungeon crafting. We'll begin the Q&A shortly, so please get your questions ready.
Az kemény lesz, gyerekek. Az király lesz szerintem. Na hát így látjátok, hogy van olyan cég, aki valamit bele is öl a játékfejlesztésbe, nem úgy, mint a Blizzard, baszki. Tehát a Blizzardnál ezt láttad, hogy így mindenki fogja a fejét, itt
Welcome
meg...
back, Exiles, to the Q&A portion. I am your host, Ziggy D, and today we're going to be touching on the design of the Druid and the fate of the Vile League while we gather some community questions. Then we'll deep dive into endgame, balance, and other game design topics. I am, of course, joined by game directors Jonathan Rogers and Mark Roberts. How you guys going today?
Oh, very good. I mean, you know, it's been a great one to work on this one. Like, I've really enjoyed it. So yeah, it's definitely great to see you again. And it feels like it's only been like no time at all since the last time you were here with the PoE1 release.
It feels like only several weeks, and that's pretty accurate.
yeah.
We get to see you twice as often now, so that's fun.
Yeah, I'm around every 2 months or so now, roughly. It's,
Boy,
it's
look.
great. I love it. Let's keep going. So I do have to open with this, though. Is like, Druid looked a little bit weak, I think, in the demonstration video today.
Yeah, I think one of the issues that we have is like we're so concentrating on like just demonstrating how the mechanics work that we sort of forget to be like, okay, let's actually make sure the damage numbers that we're doing on this like test character we're filming here are actually like in line with what people actually normally expect. So yeah, there's just a few things.
Arról beszél, hogy kicsit gyengének tűnt a Druid így a bemutató videóban.
Stronger there, but yeah, when you actually play it, it's
De
certainly
mondja
from
neki,
alpha
ugye,
feedback
hogy
incredibly
nem erre
powerful,
összpontosítottak, hanem hogy bemutassák a
like, you know, we're
mechanikákat.
seeing some people say, oh yeah, the wolf looks weak or whatever. Well, I can assure you that on alpha there's a bunch of people saying the wolf is super OP. So you know, it just comes down to the things you go through in order to demonstrate
I
stuff.
think we probably going to be worthwhile. We make some videos showing a bit more of the less demonstratey side and get them posted and stuff this week. Because honestly, you can just play it literally right now, and it's you know.
Yeah, I've definitely been playing and recording a bit myself because I was like, when I first watched it as well, the draft, I was thinking, it's like, I don't really get a feel for what it feels like to actually play it. Like, there's good demonstration here of the mechanics, but yeah, I can understand how from your perspective, it'd be pretty easy to be like, oh, we want to communicate how this cool thing works and this cool thing works.
There's a fine line there for sure. Where if you get too hectic, people are like, I don't even know what's going on. They're just looking at a ruckus. And then, yeah, in this case, let's say we went on the a little too far on the other side of the line, was it
Mit
just a bit too
gondoltak
slow?
arra, hogy berakják az
as a
Abyssal
result,
ilyen
yes, it can look a
formában
bit weak,
megmarad?
but,
Szerintem az
Yeah, I
óriás
think try
királyság.
and get some like raw Druid gameplay out to people to kind of understand it. I think it's
Nekem amúgy is baromira
because of the
tetszett ez az
shape-shifting
Abyssalos
stuff. It's
dolog.
so hard for us to. Normally, we can look at something and be like, "Oh, that's just a demonstration." We kind of know what it would look like at endgame. But I think with the Druid, it's just so unusual. It's so different that it's actually hard to judge.
Igen, alapból jó, és így, hogy még benne is lesz.
Feel like to even play it.
Eszméletlen.
And I'm happy from my hands on to say that like it's almost immediately like very smooth the shape shifting of it, the movement of it, especially because like in your demonstrations you're not really using dodge, roll, sprint, that sort of thing as well, which makes a big difference.
I suppose one of the things we didn't really dwell on in the video as well is that we do actually have dodge roll. I mean, they're not actually rolls for the animals.
Igen,
but
hogy
all the animals can,
0.4.
like, hop around.
That
was honestly one of those things that was like
tehát egy tizedenként adják ki, hogy úgy mondjam. Gondolj bele, még elvileg lesz 6 frissítés, mire jön az 1.0. Ilyen nagyon. Az mennyire durva.
We actually thought it was impossible. But then when we actually put it on alpha, there was the kind of visceral reaction of I want to still be a bear, like, you know, while I'm hopping around. So
de így is lesz, aki 3 nap után is kijátsz, aki szokott jönni ide hozzám, már nem tudom, hogy hívják. Ő jött ide a múltkor is 3 nap után, hogy már kijátszott, ő már unja az egészet. Ja, tényleg?
Hardest class to design so far, and it took a bit longer. Like I think
én biztos nem fogom kitolni ennyi idő alatt.
Yeah, quite a while ago. But the thing is with it is that it's kind of like
Ja,
designing
már most
4 classes in
brutál
one. Because not only do you have the situation where like,
az a baj, mással is játszani kell
have
néha,
synergy between skills
sajnos.
and stuff like that, and we can like look at that in a normal class and work out what those might be.
Már nem bírok egy játéknál leragadni, mert ott tényleg akkor lemaradok a Tarkovról, lemaradok a szimulátorozásról, az úgy nem lenne jó. De egyébként kurva jó, tehát biztos, hogy fogok rá számni időt.
Each line needs to be self-sufficient and that it's got all the tools that you need. But at the same time, you have to not have it so it feels like there's just duplication between them. We're like, oh, like this is just the same thing as what a bear has, but you know, you are a wolf instead. So we kind of have to like, it's like you need all the tools and yet you also need to have them feel different. And that just made it really, really tricky to get all the things right with it. And then it didn't also help that, you know, since the last time...
Mennyi baj van a világban, ezzel is kell játszani, meg azzal is nevető arc.
Hát most mondd meg nevető arc.
WSD. And that adds a whole other complication because, you know, like how can we make that work with the animal forms? It's like a whole thing. You know, like I'll tell you the wyvern, for example. Like we had a hell of a time making it so that you could do
vélemény arról a sárkányos megoldásról.
Wyvern sitting there with its arms like planted on the ground, you know, like.
Igen, mindig azok nem tetszenek ebben, ami, hogy nyilván nem a full endgame-et mutatják be, mert akkor lelőnék a poént előre, de hogy ezek még olyan ütök, csapok egyet a szárnyal. Tehát ezek még olyan alaptámadások, ami én nem ezt akarom látni, érted, hanem a full pörgős endgame-et, de volt benne egyébként egy-két hint, ami egész jó volt.
Really hard to get right, and because one of the things we really wanted to avoid was I didn't want that too much of that whole like man in a wolf.
Jövő héten meg te veszel ki Szabit, most a Bones volt Szabin, vagy hát beteg Szabin.
Skilleket akarunk.
With the wolf, it's like it's really hard not to just go back into that. So we had a lot of questions about like what.
Neked már a sárkány a háttérkép.
We're going to walk on 2 legs, or we're going to walk on 4. We ended up splitting the difference. You can do.
Így van, képernyőtörlő skillek kellenek.
You can be upright walking on 2 legs. When you're walking, you run on 4, and you actually do get a speed boost while you're on 4 legs, like as a wolf. Just so after like 1 second of walking, you go down on 4 legs, you start moving a bit faster. So yeah, it's
actually
pretty cool.
An interesting thing there, I don't think is each form technically has a kind of passive benefit.
Right.
So obviously you got the running fast as a wolf. Can't remember exactly what the wyvern ones were, but like for the bear, for example, because you're just a bit bigger, you know, bit of a tank. Yeah, you actually do get armor, and armor applies to elemental damage as a thing, and like, you know, there's a kind of, which is like honestly, unless you actually click the bear keyword, is like undescribed everywhere.
Well, it was even more than that, because I was just looking at it in game before. The bear has like passive endurance charge generation.
Yes, it does. From rage expenditure, it does.
I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah. So we really wanted to make sure that each of the different forms had things that.
De Diners nem volt, hát még azt nem tudjuk, mert még 2 óra múlva jön ki a patch
a bear can generate. What are the resources that
honnan tudod, hogy nem volt?
That the other ones can then use.
Azt mondták lesz.
Cross synergy. So yeah, that's kind of like one of the reasons why we had to kind of come up with all that stuff. And part of the trickiness.
And that caught me by
Az
surprise as
monk,
well, 'cause,
de
like,
hogy az hol volt
technically it's
eddig
mentioned,
az
but I
a
never
skill?
really fully understood the idea that you can swap
Értem, hogy
between the
monk,
forms.
nem
Like,
vesz.
even to animal and back, yeah, I figured that's what's going
Értem,
on here.
csak
but
hol
you
volt
can, like,
eddig az a
weaken as wolf
skill?
and then immediately transform
Most jön
to a
új
bear
skill,
mid-slam,
vagy-
You
like,
absolutely
slam the
can.
ground,
So
like-
the thing with
Volt
this is
eddig is,
that,
ez a
we-
megpörgeti maga körül a
you want to
botot.
present a fantasy to someone
De ne
as far as, like, what
szívassál
the UI is
engem.
pushing you towards and all that
Én
stuff. Like,
ilyet
there are
még
gonna be
nem
a lot of people who are like,
láttam.
I want to be a bear, and they just pick bear stuff and they go all bear, right?
De
But
nem
at the
az,
same
amikor
time, we're
így
unconstrained in the sense
pörgeti,
that you can
hanem amikor így maga körül, az a nagy karikába men. Ott volt ilyen, igen.
Bear or wyvern, what that's giving you is the default attack, right? That's
Yeah,
what you're actually
just that.
picking, and that's all it is, right? And that often will guide you, like what skills you're picking and so on. But you can just use with that same talisman as many different animal skills as you would like, that just means that you've got that sort of free flowing, like, you know, trying out different stuff, sort of combo gameplay that we. You know, like to try and get. So, you know, obviously there will just be a lot of people who just.
Nekem a Caster Druida is bejött egyébként, ami csak ott villámokat nyomatott, meg minden, az is
Yeah, so you're
király
trying to
volt.
get, like, making it so like people who just want like a simple, straightforward, like I just want to run out as bear and slam the ground, like that's certainly
Yeah.
very possible there. But also,
Yeah,
with
shaman.
this whole class, you had the problem of how do we make like a spellcaster and a melee attacker that's shapeshifter as well. I mean, this class has got a bit of everything.
For sure.
How did you make all that kind of like work together and solve that build problem of like, how do you actually scale these things together in a way that just one thing isn't way better than everything else?
Right. Well, I mean, it's always tricky, and Mark's obviously the one who handles a lot of the balance stuff. But I can see, even just from a design perspective, you know, so I just throw over the fence all my horrible stuff, and then you're like, how the hell am I going to balance this? No, but effectively, like, so even with the spellcaster side, so one of the things we initially wanted with the spellcasting is a lot of it's like over time type effects.
Még nem látjuk,
You
ja.
know, so for example, with the volcano being the really obvious one, right? Like you can create this thing, and then you can turn into an animal and do other stuff at the same time. So we needed on the human side a lot of things that last for a long time. But the problem you then run into when you actually go to balance the thing is like, okay, well, if you've just got like 5 damage over time style spells, why not just cast all of them and then you don't have to ever do anything else, right? Like, so it's like that kind of stuff makes it really hard. So then you have to start thinking, okay, we want to make it so that you cast a long-term thing as a human, but then being an animal is going to augment that so that it improves it. So for example, with the tornado, it's got a similar mechanic to the little twisters that the hunters have, where ground effects can empower it with
Az milyen király volt, amikor a
extra
tornádó átment a
elemental
tüzön,
stuff.
és így azt is
And so then, like,
fölvette,
okay, well,
hogy
if
ugye a
the
többi
animal
spell
forms
is
are the ones that
hatással
can
van
create
egymásra,
the
az
ground
kurva jól
effects,
nézett ki.
then that means that you're kind of like, you're going to want to do.
Az a
you know,
tornádó
like,
lehet, hogy
mix
nem
that with the
17-et
tornado,
fog
you now have both
sebezni.
the animal forms and the spellcaster stuff if you want to get
Gondolom
all
van,
that
aki
together.
tudja, mire
So it's just a lot of that
utaltam.
thinking about how can an animal form aid a spell, how can a spell aid an animal form, like all the way through. And then, yeah, as I said, we throw it over the fence and then Mark tries to work
Azaz,
out what kind of
pénteken
numbers can
indul.
actually
I mean,
get.
it's a
Pénteken
web
elkezdjük
of
neki
infinite
csapatni.
difficulty, right? Because like we're talking about the 4 forms within the class,
Nem
but each of these
kapva.
skills also synergizes with every other class and every other skill in the game, and it just it's
And
becoming
me.
growingly more complicated.
Yeah.
But that's also what's fun about the game and what all the things you can unlock and the crazy builds you can do. But yeah, I mean, like this week's focus has been like, okay, we had all the like during our alpha testing and internal testing, we had like, you know, there was the I want to be all forms going between. There was the I just want to be wolf, I just want to be bear, I just want to be a dragon. And now we're getting a lot more of I just want to cast nature plant skills and do plant stuff. And so it's like, okay, well, how do we make that work? Well, because they're quite long duration, so we're having a bunch of complexity with that as well. And it honestly just, it does just spiral into like, oh my God, there's 20 million variables here. But it's fun. And at the end of the day, as long as it is honestly fun to play, then honestly we're golden. So, you know, I would say we're pretty much there on almost everything with this class. I'd actually say we're a little bit more prepared than normal. We've had a lot of testing.
Yeah.
Despite, I mean, partly because it's been in the works for so long. But yeah, it's, I don't know, like ultimately pretty fun. I'd say there's still something, obviously there's still more to do. There's obviously always more to do. But yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of enjoyment.
Arról beszéltek, hogy
I saw
balanszolták ki a
yesterday, I just, like, walking
druidot,
past
meg
someone's
mit tudom
computer
én,
and,
és
you know, someone
mondta,
was
hogy hát
mentioning,
ja,
like, yeah,
sok-sok
it's just fun
permutáció van
placing 6
ezeknek, hogy mit
volcanoes
mivel
and then just
használsz,
slamming
és
on them.
hogy balanszolták, de hogy végül is fun volt, meg élvezték csinálni is.
Tornadoes, and there's the totem which you can summon in animal form, and then you're putting fishes down and they're exploding.
Igen, ők úgy, náluk olyan, hogy azt érzi az ember, hogy ők még olyan szívből fejlesztik, ahogy régen a Blizzard.
Tangles going out, and then there's that plant support gem. I'm like, all right, it's putting the new.
Még nem hülyeséget találnak ki, és elmagyarázzák, hogy szerintük az miért jó, hanem normális dolgokat csinálnak, ami alapvetően átgondolt és jól működő dolog. Általában, ezt látom.
No, the designer said that's probably not intended. Thanks, Ziggy. I'm like,
I don't know. We'll see where that goes, because I was like, no, that's fine.
This is a fish.
It made it to me, and I was like, no, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, because it generates rage when you first slam, and then the fishes, every time they pulse, it generates rage. I'm like,
oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit, I didn't even know that.
Because like the totem's making it pulse, and that's generating rage.
Right.
I'm like, that doesn't seem intentional.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I love that, because that's like ridiculously powerful. That feels like way permissive. I was like, this feels illegal, but that's like, you gotta let a few things in there that feel illegal.
It's doing what the skill says.
I may not have. Maybe I didn't get enough. Okay, cool.
I don't know. They might have changed it. I'll find out afterwards. I just throw my opinion in there. I don't want to necessarily be like.
Az Abyssal miatt.
I try and make sure with a lot of these balanced discussions, it's not like, you know, I'm just an authority on the matter. I want to actually discuss these things through, because maybe it isn't actually fine, but you know, my first instinct is like, yeah, like let it run wild. Like, what's the problem? You know, so
yeah, you gotta.
We'll see what happens, but whatever. They don't know what the problem is, so don't worry. Oh, now they do. Thanks, you ruined it.
Hát kíváncsi leszek, milyen lesz az optimalizálás is. Hogy mindent megnézzünk.
Well, let's see that line of text. Now that's the Ziggy line of text. I'm developing.
Elvileg péntek 8-tól indul, ha jól tudom. Jövő héten.
So, like the shapeshifting stuff comes from this trinket, the talisman.
Yeah, the animal talisman.
And is there any limitation just kind of like putting that on another class and just say like, I am playing my mace marauder or my quarterstaff monk, and I want to do a wolf leap slam that marks targets.
You can do it. In fact, it was one of the things initially that you know, it's funny with the audio team, because initially like, oh, we want to record like bear lines for the Druid the whole time, and I'm like, hey guys, remember, anyone can turn into this animal. You're actually going to commit to every single class is going to have like three different extra versions of every single line the character can deliver. It's like, yeah, that's a bit tricky. So we ended up going with a voice mod in the end. But yeah, that was one of those.
It's like their thoughts. I think it shifts to. It almost sounds like, to me, that's what it sounds like.
Aha, PS-en izé volt, laggos. Hát voltak azért FPS droppok PC-n is rendesen, pedig nekem elég erős PC-n van.
Exactly. But yeah, effectively, every class can be an animal. It's exactly the same as the weapon restriction. Ultimately, being a bear is the same as having a mace, which may sound a little bit odd, but that is actually, you know, how it works, and what allows, you know.
Betehetett többi karakternek is ezt a talizmánt, és azok is átváltozhatnak állattá? Az über kemény.
It's the same in the sense that it's just a weapon type, right? Like,
yeah,
you know,
right,
like,
okay.
Yeah.
Damn it, now we have to make that possible.
Well, I mean, you know, you can turn into Calm as a bear.
That's unique item territory for the future.
Yeah, well, yeah, it often gets talked about, like, the idea of, like, why things, like, so weapon-locked. And I've always maintained the position that you guys want to kind of do that as much as possible initially, and then in the future you can blur the lines a little bit. Like there's maybe in the future you're like, oh well, maybe this skill has a way of crossing over.
We can do, but the thing is, a lot of the identity of a weapon type really comes a lot from what it can do, and so that's the kind of the main reason why we do it that way. But but the thing is as well, the weapon swapping, I mean, you can still use skills from different elements. Different weapons and things like that.
Well, the thing is, like, it's funny that you mentioned that with the bear, because, like, definitely some of the bears, I noticed parallels between some of its skills and some of the mace stuff, and I could see absolutely combining, like, this bear skill that places fishes with the other stuff on the mace that triggers the fishes. Like, there's, like, very obvious, like, cross synergy build.
Well, I mean, they're adjacent classes, right? I mean, you've got, like, strength versus strength int. Like, we want to be able to make sure that some of those key elements do, like, cross over, just so that to open up the way to have synergy between them.
Persze, nem volt eddig ilyen.
As you get more classes and more skills, you obviously get an overlap of the kind of mechanics and keywords and stuff
Végül is olyan mondhatjuk, hogy ez egy ilyen új fegyverosztály, ez a talizmán.
Where there still will be new things a class offers, yes, there's always going to be a bunch of stuff that they use that.
Mert ugye a fegyver helyére rakta, tehát a másik slotba, de valahogy ez a skilleket, ahogy elnyomod, ez automatikusan vált. Ez meg van csinálva, tehát nem kell azzal foglalkozni, hogy ezt így váltogasd a fegyvereidet, hanem ezt beteszed, és akkor azt is, a talizmánt is, és akkor, hogyha olyan cuccot nyomsz el, akkor nyilván az aktiválódik. Addig a fegyverrel, ugye úgy jön ki automatán a formból, azt mutatta, hogy megnyom egy spellt, és akkor kijön a formból, visszavált ugye a staffra.
It's actually been really fun designing the supports because you know, the more classes we have, the more we can start to think, okay, like here's a support that's for something obscure. How can we make it so this can apply to some other kind of thing on the opposite side of the tree where like now you've got some interesting interaction? So there could be some kind of like thing where growing plants as a ranger could be sort of something. I mean, like I can't say I've tested the potential there myself, but like we made all of that work. All the plants can, you know, like plant stuff all has mechanics around like watering the ranger's plants is like a thing. They all have ways that works.
I mean, that definitely opens up interesting party options in the future as well. Like, I do like the idea of being like a rainy druid watering.
It's a thing. It's easily a thing. It's not even hard to do as well.
Right.
It's kind of just like, thanks, druid, you buffed poison rangers.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of just what happened.
Yeah.
Good, yes. And the rain buff.
Hát nem tudom ezt hogy csinálják, hogy ennyi skillt ott azon a passzív skill fan úgy, tehát azt arra is figyelni kell, amiről most beszélnek, ugye, hogy mivel, hogy használsz, és hogy ne legyen valami, tehát hogy azt is balanszolják valójában. Brutál meló lett, nem tudom ezt hogy csinálják.
Well, we really wanted to have a third form that was a little bit out there in terms of different from what you'd seen in another game. I mean, obviously, like every game that's got transformations has the bear and the wolf, right? That's just like the staple. But and actually, for that reason, we couldn't not do it. There was actually a period there where we weren't going to have a wolf because we were a little bit unhappy, with us. And it's just like, well, exactly, right? That was the reaction. That was the reaction of like all the furries come out of the woodwork and like, you gotta have a wolf. How dare you? Yeah, how dare, exactly, right? So we're like, okay, we'll have a yeah, exactly. Don't anger them. So that was a real concern. So we decided to go. We needed the two familiar, and then we needed one.
Hello, Ciarici.
And really, when we were looking at the bear and the wolf, it was kind of like we want the slower, harder hitting. We want the faster and like speedy kind of version. Obviously, being the wolf. We also wanted something that had some range elements. And then a sort of more spellcastery vibe a little bit more. And so we sort of thought about it a little bit like what animal is ranged? Like it's not really, it's kind of not a lot out there that can really sort of do that. And so, eventually we settled on the wyvern. I mean, someone of course at one point was like, how about a dragon? And we're like, what the heck? What are you talking about? But then eventually I thought about it and it's like, actually, you know what? There's some potential here.
Fura olyan szempontból igen, mert hogy ugye eddig nem volt a druidnak ilyen a harmadik formja, mert a werewolf meg a werber volt nagyon más. Mi volt?
It's kind of a spell blade almost. Like it's got a bit of a range stuff, but it's got a bit of like spell kind of melee.
Yeah, nature spellek, stb.
Yeah, and you were asking what the passive buffs were. I was looking at it before. It's like it's got
ez a Dragon Warrior volt.
Energy regeneration actually, like as well, like energy regeneration.
Nem tűnt rossznak egyébként.
It's a shame you knew. The reason I was actually being vague is I knew what they were. I just wanted to change them.
Okay, I mean that's fine. Do something.
Sorry
cool.
for my slight disingenuousness.
Do something cool.
I kind of feel like they shouldn't. I didn't want them to be offensive benefits.
Yeah, they're supposed to be defensive.
It forces you into certain build types. Whereas like if they're utility or defensive, that way they will work across all board. That's my general philosophy. So I was like, I feel like I want to have a go at trying to design.
Tegye fel a kezét, aki jövő hét pénteken nem fog játszani a poéval. Nem látok kezeket, úgyhogy mindenki játszani fog a poéval.
If you wanted to do a kind of weird out there thing, it doesn't feel so bad. But we'll see what I come up with.
Do you have an idea, or are you still figuring it out?
Nah, I got no clue. I don't know. You could play on the fact it's got like wings to something defensive for block, or something for hard carapace maybe.
Ez megvan, hogy a Diablo 4-et azt 10 órával előtte fogják kiadni, vagy valami ilyesmi? Ez megvan, vagy előtte nap valahogy? Rax mondta, hogy hát ezt jól elbasztalt Blizzard, mert kicsit Diablo 4-ezünk, aztán megyünk igazából poézni, aztán poézunk inkább. Megpróbálnak fightolni a Path of Exile 2-vel, de nem tudnak. Pont 12-én mész dolgozni 12 órát? Bugi, Szabit kell kivenni.
So the Druid is this like strength int class.
De aztán meddig van Szabit?
The Templar, we had the idea more of like you've got the armor energy shield stuff, but that's still the case here, as that's the strength int base. But I feel like the energy shield stuff is not as iconic to Druid. How we incorporated that and made it feel like something that makes sense.
Lesz időt csapatni, azt hiszem.
To the Druid, I feel like it's not obvious.
Yeah, look, it is a little bit off in terms of the feel there, but at the end of the day,
szerintem péntek, szombat, vasárnap és hétfő, akkor biztos, hogy only Path of Exile 2 lesz jövő héten, azt tuti.
What do you call them? Spirit reservation gems? I don't know I can never remember what the official name of that is. That sort of interact with that stuff in a dual way. So there's like that bark skinned thing that effectively allows you to take advantage of energy shield to generate armor. Like, so when you lose energy shield, you get armor instead, and like it like creates little bits of bark on your skin.
Cool.
There's like things like that we've added, but yeah, it's a little bit of a thematically weird thing. I think probably the weirdest part about that is like, yeah, you're gonna have energy shield as a bear. It's a bit strange. Like, getting hit as a bear and then there's a little energy shield pop, but I mean, yeah, it is what it is. Kind of has to be that way.
Well, you don't have to.
Well, I suppose, sure, you can go full armor if you want, but
I feel like because there's like such a range of identities within that one class as well, that you've got the bear maybe that doesn't really align as much with that. There's definitely more armor stuff.
Yeah, so you could build more strength when depending on what animal form you're playing, of course.
Yeah, whereas like the wyvern potentially has more of that kind of magical aspect to it, where it's like that's
I mean, and that's why the wyvern itself does get the benefits to energy shield, and the bear does get the benefits to armor, in order to kind of make it so you are like, depending on what animal form you're going, there's a bit of alignment in the defense.
I mean, really, it's the tree that inspires and motivates this, right? Like, a sorceress could be on the bottom side of the tree and still have the same skill set, and obviously the damage nodes are a bit weird, but it could work. There's nothing saying. I mean, that's part of the beauty of the game as well.
Yeah, I mean, I had that experience where I was like, because it wasn't as clear, I was almost inventing my own lore there a little bit, where I was speccing the regen from the Druid, and then the Zealot's Oath right there. I'm like, oh, this actually, like, you're converting your natural kind of like life regen into energy shield. Like, I was like, oh, this is kind of the Druid's thing. Like,
yeah, I mean, that is a way for sure. Like, keystones certainly are pretty powerful, and we have a bunch of, I think there's an extra, I can't remember what it's doing. There's one that says do not translate on it, so it's in progress. But yeah, we were playing around with trying to have some armor, energy shield, more hybrid stuff going on with the keystones there. It was based on, what's it called? PoE1's, is it Divine Shield? Is that the name of the keystone? I can't remember. Too many names. But it's based on that, but not exactly the same, like a derivative of that we're trying to get going. But yeah, it's just because I was like, we need more keystones that I feel more druidy, and I know there's a rage one there that is embracing the animal ferocity, where it like, what does it do? It's like doubles your maximum rage, but makes you don't get inherent bonuses from rage. So it's like, if you really want to do the skills that are rage consumers, like rampage, and you just want to rampage for as much time as possible, you obviously go for that keystone. You lose the benefits of rage, but you get to rampage around for twice as long. Sure. So a few things like that we're trying to add that are thematic as well. And I think that's another one of the really cool parts about adding a class is 1/6 of our tree was just filled with just placeholder garbage. Like, actually, like, there's a giant link thing there. There's no links in the game, really. It's like, what are we doing with that? It's like, and so I was like, well, that looked like a vine. Just make that a plant thing. And, so now it's a plant thing that talks about overgrown plants. But we filled in that whole bit of the tree. And guess what? Now witches and sorceresses have more energy shield stuff on that kind of direction around towards the druid, and warrior has more, and and I don't just mean energy shield, I mean everything, all the mechanics, right? All the int mechanics are kind of there, the strength mechanics, everything. So
it is nice we finally have a class in every different part of the tree, so like we don't have any just like weird open stuff anymore.
Yeah, that area of the tree was a little strange. I mean, it's such a massive tree already, and you're adding more to it, and then like I have to wonder, like, you added this Oracle class. Like, I saw the Shaman one, I was like, yes, this is exactly what I expected. But then I saw the Oracle, and you guys had like 130 extra passives.
So far.
Like, why do you do this to yourself? Like, that seems ridiculous.
it's fun.
Because it's cool.
Okay.
Because it's cool.
That's
really
the
is
best
the
reason you could ask for, right?
Yeah.
I was like,
What more could you want?
I really went through. I mean, I know we showed 2 examples, but I was like, really want to make sure there's like cool off-spec stuff here. I want to make sure that if you want to be able to get more of a certain thing, this is a way to do it. I mean, at the end of the day, it still costs passive points to allocate, right? So it's more
Kíváncsi
about-
egy olyan statisztikára, hogy a passzív
maybe you
skill
want some
tree
stuff
vajon
that
melyik az a passzív
normally it'd have
pont,
to go to
amit
the
soha
deck section
senki
for,
egyik
you
buildbe
get,
se
maybe
használ.
some
Tudja,
projectile
hogy van
related
ilyen.
stuff, and now you can get it up there because it allows for some kind of weird off class, and it was all themed around, if you got to live your life again, what would you change? Like, what different paths would you take? And so it's this interesting, like,
It's an existential crisis as a
but
node.
That fits period.
initially I always write my little blurbs about them to get them in the live stream, and I was like, it's got all the passives not yet added to the game. I thought it was an interesting way of looking at it. Not that that's actually how it is, but I thought it was like a kind of, it's like lessons you learn, you get to now use in advance kind of. I thought it was just a cool thematic thing that linked to the class. And
De az is elhangzott, hogy 130 új van, és valami 250-et megváltoztattak, vagy valami ilyesmi, nem? 130 hozzájött, és 250-et változtattak meg, vagy valami ilyesmi, nem? Jó, ha jól emlékszem.
Like runes revealing hidden powers, like we're setting ourselves up for a large amount of cumulative time over a while, right? Any rune we add, anything, like we have to add and consider the shaman stats, and we have, that's another
megállt.
other whole axis of things. We have to meta balance every league, and same with the oracle passives, and every time we change the tree, and like when we eventually have the
megkaptuk a
Templar,
droppot.
we're going to have to relocate all those nodes because that tree's going to get a giant. Now we've got 2.5 classes in one section, but it's worth it. It is actually worth it. You
Megkaptuk a
add
droppot,
so many
váltsátok
builds,
ki.
so many cool things, and if you don't want to deal with it, just pick another class. It's fine. You don't have to, or pick other nodes on the same class. You don't have to take that node. So
I think this like very clearly communicates that you're also okay with this idea of there being just like hidden cool stuff
Hányan
to discover
nézik?
that you're not going to know ahead of time, because you can't like look at the class
62
options on the
000-en nézik azon a
selection screen
csatornán.
and know
Kemény.
what the passives are going to be that are hidden behind the Oracle ascendancy, right? So it's like, yeah, that's cool, that's fine.
Azaz.
Yeah, I mean, you just
I love
like, I mean, look, there's always going to be community tools, and they're going to come up with a way to make that, to the build guides and all that kind of stuff. So like,
I love the secret stuff.
Yeah.
I actually got my secret Abyssal Lich.
Yeah, wild.
It was an actual final secret, and maybe there's more. Well, you
want to do more
never
of
know.
that, don't you? I can tell. Look at you.
knows?
Look at him.
Na, valamire nem
He wants to do
beszélnek.
more.
Of course, I love it. I love people having cool secret things they can find, and it isn't just like 1000% pre-planned out of the gate. Like, I understand the need to plan. I understand the need to have confidence in a build, and you don't want to go in and only realize you've made the wrong decisions and stuff like that, for sure. But I definitely want to find that balance where you have that while you also get your cool secrets that you get to add to the game that are fun.
Yeah. I think there's like a couple more chat questions on Druid, but we'll try and move on to the other stuff soon, because I know people want to talk about the other thing. I could talk about Druid all day. I think the design's super interesting here. But some of the questions were that I think people are a bit confused about like the talismans and the forms and how that stuff works. So the talismans are effectively just like another weapon.
yeah, exactly.
And things like attack speed, movement speed on gear and everything will affect you in your movement.
absolutely,
Animal
right.
forms. It's
Absolutely.
not like, I think because a lot of other games do it where when you change form, like all of a sudden, oh, your weapon's not affecting you, or this thing's not affecting
Right.
you.
Well, I mean, effectively, so we're doing the changing form by utilizing weapon swaps. So you've got 2 weapon sets inherently, and the talisman effectively
Ja már.
serves as your weapon Yeah, like if you're playing a druid, you are going to have to learn how to use weapon specialization passives and stuff like that if you want to have the spellcaster and melee thing. Now, a lot of the passive tree nodes, like in the druid section of the tree, all have like attack and spell damage and that kind of stuff. So like certainly for most of the start of the class, you won't have to worry about it. But as you get deeper in, and if you want to do hybrid spell attack, you are going to have to think about like, okay, what are my attack passives, what are my spell passives, and do that.
I was actually surprised at how simple and straightforward it was to do. So like the weapon specialization tree thing, you still do need to think about and understand how that works. But the basics of it, like using the actual skills, just happens automatically. Like I didn't ever have to actually go in and
no. You don't have to worry about that part. Just because of the fact that because this has always been the rule, but it's really apparent here. Like if it'll swap to the weapon set that can use the ability, so therefore you don't have to actually tweak. You just put it in and it kind of works. So
like if I tried to use my spell, it would shift to human automatically and use the staff. So like that was all automated, and I didn't have to like program anything like that.
Right.
Like.
Miért megy el a csávónak a hangja?
Yeah, mostly that's just because you get into a situation with those where because it's usable on both, now you have to start going in there and tweaking that stuff. But here, because it makes it much simpler when you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, so there's a decent onboarding there, given the potential complexity of that. All right, so we'll move on now to the Fate of the Vile expansion, and there's definitely more of a like clear divide between the two things, and you even actually made two separate trailers this time around.
Well, it would have been super weird to have these like two completely clashing themes in the trailer. So in the end we were like, normally of course we'd make one trailer with everything, but we're kind of like, man, it's really hard to unify these two things in a kind of reasonable way. So in the end we decided to go with two trailers and just like show the content completely separately.
And they're not connected. Like
No.
Igen, fura, hogy behozzák a druidot, ugye azt kellett egyszer bemutatni, meg hozzák az új ligát, és azt is be kellett.
That was total accident, by the way. It was just like two totally unrelated.
Yes, sure. I was praising the equality of it. Yeah, I was great. There's buttocks for everyone here in this trailer. Excellent. Thank you. So this expansion is, and we saw this a little bit where you tried to work in the previous League mechanics into like story quest stuff, which I was super keen on. This expansion definitely feels much more deeply linked into the campaign and story, to the point where like Doriani's saying, go back in time and try and change these things that happened in the campaign. I was like, this feels like a major campaign story beat.
So I mean,
on now.
There's a few things going on there. So like initially, this league, unlike I think what we've done too much of in the past, the storyline develops quite a lot more, kind of like through the campaign with different events that happen and sort of link in a lot. And part of the reason for that is that one of the things we sort of don't like necessarily. És gondolj bele, ezek milyen hatással lehetnek akár a többi buildre. Mert ugye nem feltétlenül csak a druiddal használod, vagy biztos lesznek olyanok, még nem tudjuk, hogy mik azok, vagy legalábbis azt mondták, hogy még majd a patch notes, ugye az 2 óra múlva jön. Este 11-kor, meg 1 és 3-4 óra. Ki tudja, mik lesznek? If we'd have had it so it's like you're time traveling into the past, like the moment you walk out the gate, it's like, okay, it's just not quite right. So we decided what we'll do is we'll make so that there is the temple. We've got a kind of like almost a baby version of the mechanic where you've got a lesser number of rooms, like it's kind of a bit simpler, like to start out with. And then once you pass the sort of key point in the storyline, then it like really opens up. You go into the past, you've got a little more story stuff going on. It did add quite a lot more work to kind of have to make 2 versions of a bunch of things and that kind of stuff. But I think it is worth it because it means that it feels like the league has a lot more going on. It just doesn't kind of break the.
Kíváncsi ezek arra a liga mechanikára, ahol ott felrakod le a kis jegyzetekbe, ugye, hogy merre akarsz menni, meg milyen szobák legyenek, és ez hogy fog működni.
3 dimensions deep of, I'm in the past and or in some sort of demon realm now. I don't know what's going on here.
And it's fine as you go, but this is actually one of the challenges I think we're going to have just designing leagues generally, is that they're going to require a bit more work to make them feel right. I mean, even just something as simple as like the vile sacrifice circles that you get throughout the world. Normally what we would have done is like make one thing and call it a day. Here what we've done is we've got like 10 or more. There's a ton of variations of those where for like each act we're like, and like for each area we're thinking like, okay, which like we need more of these so that we can use them so they feel natural in the place where they are, like do a bit of material reskin, stuff like that. Like that's kind of the stuff that we now need to do to sort of make it feel like you're not breaking the world stuff.
The Peru 1 style, betrayal basement You know, you just okay, so there's just a
randomly.
basement everywhere, like in the mud flats. Like, okay, you know, that just doesn't fly anymore at all. So like we want to make sure that these things are way more believable.
Right.
Like you are actually convinced. You're like, you know, this makes sense. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not just in a basement in the mud flat in a swamp. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the Val is a very distinct thing, and it's very like tied to Act 3 as well. So
Yeah.
I was a bit worried about like the tone of Act 1 with the Val stuff, but then like yeah, it fits in reasonably well. Like you've definitely taken good care to make sure that it doesn't.
Mondjuk
Well, I
a,
mean, yeah, it's a matter of making it feel like there's
például
some
ez a
ancient
dupla
ruin, then later
korrupt, az
someone came
nekem
along,
nem
like some
tudom,
Israelites
az
went there
olyan...
and they built some stones
Ez a
around it,
korrupt
because
az
it
amúgy
was
is, hogy
this thing, like,
elronthatja a
just a little bit of
cuccokat,
like
sose
how
szerettem
the
az
culture had
ilyeneket. Na
reacted
most
to
ez a
the fact
dupla
that there was this
korrupt,
ancient
hát
ruin
nem
from
tudom.
long ago,
De ez
and
a
this location,
50%, hogy disztrojolja a
Okay,
cuccot,
interesting.
azért az
And, you
kemény.
mentioned to me that this is the bar for what you want to be doing. This is the quality level for what you want to be doing.
Yeah. So I'd say that, like, it does sort of. I would say here, like the level of polish and the stuff that we're doing, like the amount of content that a league needs to actually be good. Like, you know, obviously, when we did 020, the league was a little bit like, you know, it was just the Asmerian spirits, and like, I mean, it was a league, but it wasn't really. Didn't have like the depth of content and stuff that you needed. And then with 030, I think we did a lot better. Like it came a lot better, but I still don't think we quite got there in terms
that
of
was like
the, you know,
PoE 1 level kind of.
yeah, and then this one here, I think, like, you know, you get up to the level of quality that we really want to be delivering in PoE 2, like, you know, post-release and everything, and like the kind of the amount of content you need for a league. Like, it needs to be quite sizable and good, and it did take a lot of effort, but I think it's worth it because it sort of shows you what we can do when we.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like a high bar that you've effectively kind of like locked in committing to for expansions. There.
Well, hopefully I don't come to regret it, but you know, it's and it, honestly
Tell
the scope
me.
did explode a little bit because when we I think that one of the things so when I initially designed the league, I was kind of like, okay, we're going to have like some limited number of rooms. We kind of spec'd it out, and like, you know, and each one will have a few levels, and it kind of didn't seem like it was that large. But really, in the context of PoE 2, it's like, well, if you're going to spend effort to upgrade a room, it needs to feel meaningfully different and have meaningfully better rewards and all that stuff. And it pretty soon expands into like a really huge list of like different combat encounter mechanics and different like crafting mechanics and different rewards and everything. Like, there are so many new rewards and things in just in the temple. It's crazy. Like, you know, there's a lot there. Like, certainly the number of expanded crafting options and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we could take some inspiration from what PoE 1 did with Incursion, you know, in terms of double crops and stuff, but we had to make it work in a PoE 2 context. You know, there's just a lot there.
Yeah, I've followed your progress with designing this one from the very beginning.
Yeah, the funny thing is about that is that it actually came from a game that you recommended that I play.
I wasn't going to even say
no. So you recommended that I play this game called Loop Hero, and I really enjoyed it. And then, I mean, everyone's going to think that the game we're inspired by is Blueprints, but it actually wasn't. It was Loop Hero.
It was so good because I told you about that game, and then it was like a week later or something, you sent me a message like, "Hey, I've made this little program."
Yeah. So I prototyped up like a thing that for what would become the UI for Incursion. We actually ended up. It's funny.
Az kemény alatt, hogy ajánlott neki egy gémet a csávó, és ő abból találta ki, vagy hozta át az ötletet, hogy működjön ez a crafting
One of the great
dolog.
things about doing that is that I got to make so many design changes just in the course of of writing it, like, which I don't think necessarily would have gone exactly the same way if I was getting other people to do it. So yeah, that was really fun. And you know, just make and then effectively the back of it is like the code that I wrote, but obviously the UI of it is like a whole thing that a bunch of other people worked on and made look really awesome. But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, what is it like about this one that grabbed you so much? Because you got so involved and so personally, like working on it at home.
Yeah,
in the evening,
I just really enjoy this kind of like little game within a game, like little metagame things. And just that dungeon design thing is just a really fun thing for me.
Tile placing.
Yeah,
good, right?
it's always it's really fun.
Love a good tile place.
You know, and I just like coming up with all little ways that they can interact and that kind of thing, and you know, try to make each feel a bit different and that kind of stuff. It's just a good time.
Yeah, and it's got this like iterative design where you're building a temple, you run it like it's a really small one at first, and then it crumbles a bit, but you're still kind of building on what you're doing each time.
Yeah.
It's like a weird kind of like roguelike-y thing without being a roguelike itself.
Yeah.
Exactly. So with that design then, I'm curious, like does it like fully reset at some point? Like for example, when you kill at Zeri or
It never fully resets, but when you kill at Zeri or defeat an architect, quite a lot of the temple gets destroyed. So there's this kind of destabilization thing. So it goes back to not the start, but kind of I think it removes like 2/3 of the rooms. There's some number like that it gets rid of at that point, and then you kind of have to build up again. So that's just that effectively means that like when you do those options, you're getting like new reward rooms and things to play. So it's giving you new goals, and then you have to work towards those goals again. And then ideally, those reward rooms can be rewarding enough that the benefit of going back to smaller is sorry, or I'd say the negative of going back to smaller is completely outweighed by the benefits you're getting from the extra rooms that you're able to place.
So you can juice it a fair bit too.
You can, yeah.
There's a lot of like modifiers that are getting added on by each room, and you can place quite a lot of them.
Yeah,
on
you
that
can,
grid.
yeah.
Do you foresee people building out like a huge temple and then kind of not having it decay as much as possible?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
not
I mean,
running out Zeri?
it's absolutely intended that you'll do that. I mean, once you've defeated Zeri enough times, you've got the uniques from there, and you've done like other things like that. Then you absolutely will like probably want like for ultra end game play when you really want like the most challenging stuff, and you're just like looking to get like as many double corrupts as you can and stuff like that. You're probably going to want to keep the temple large and specifically not do the stuff that would cause it to destabilize, because if you don't kill the architect and you don't kill it Zeri, then it will it'll only pull you back. I can't remember the exact number of rooms, but there's some number of rooms that go away when it's quite full, and then you can just juice it really high and have really challenging in-game scaling tier of stuff. Because one of the things we were sort of concerned about is that there is some in-game content that just doesn't really scale as hard as it needs to scale in order to make it properly in-game viable.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure that this was not the case here, that it actually does scale enough into the in-game.
Okay, so like designed to be pretty farmable and to be pretty late game relevant.
Of course, yeah.
It gets pretty hectic with all those mods.
Yeah.
With how many rooms are on there and like.
Yeah. But also just other things that you want to do, like so for example at the start of the game, you can only you can't like store up temple runs, as it were. As you get into the game, then now we start to have it so that you can store up more runs, so that you can like map for a while, then like do a bunch of incursions.
I think we have it that eventually you can do 60 maps and then temples, and then 60 maps, then temples.
If you want. So you can,
if you want, or you can do 6, then a temple, then 6, then a temple.
So you can effectively store
anywhere
10
runs,
in between. 10 runs
Nice.
if you want.
I feel like with these things, like now I keep seeing like, you guys have thought of it. The
Well, the thing is that we've got so much experience and stuff. I mean, yeah, like so for example, the whole like taking the currency away from the temple instead of having to craft inside the temple thing.
Yes.
Like that's just a hard learned lesson from PoE 1 where you just need to.
You say we thought of it, and I have, because I'm just going to bring it up. But like, and a thing about, and this is something that I'm on the fence about a little bit. Personally, but the thing with the killing architect and Zeri destroying a bunch of the temple, creating that clash of either farm temple or farm boss, can be quite a divisive thing for people.
Right.
You're looking at Betrayal Katarina.
Remélem az Abyssos boss nem lesz benn, mert az
We've now
semmire nem volt
separated
jó.
those two things, so they're not, because it always felt bad doing one or the other. Or it could feel bad doing one or the other, depending on how the balance went. And so you might get a similar thing here. Now, of course, the amount of the temple that can get destroyed is variable, and there's a bunch of stuff we can obviously tweak. But yeah, like getting that right and feeling right will be important. It's honestly hard to say if it is right now. But it's a thing, we say we've thought about it, but it can be very easy to see that and be like, hey, they're doing the same mistake they've made last time. Which, you're not wrong. Except depending on honestly having the lever this time in place of how much gets destroyed instead of entire board reset kind of thing. We get to control that a lot better and iterate on that if we need to. So
yeah, that's true. You've already
we've thought about it, but it can. I could see, because I was just thinking about it, going, I reckon people are going to get mad at this. And I was just looking at it, going like, the idea that it's like, hold on, I can't farm the bosses. I either have to pick bosses or pick temple. It can be quite bad.
Well, so yeah, that's clear then that you've kind of already got your hand hovering over the lever waiting to like adjust it as needed.
Yeah, and it's honestly kind of hard to know with, I mean, even if, it's
the thing with this sort of stuff specifically is you're talking about that's the type of gameplay that is hard to test internally.
Yeah.
Because how can you do just like you can't really test like what is weeks of grinding gonna feel like, it's yeah.
So I expect us to maybe we hit the sweet spot. Who knows? Hopefully. But I could imagine that this is a thing that gets adjusted for sure.
Yeah, so you've made the like the ability to sell like the corruptions, the double corruptions as an itemizable thing you can just take away and sell. Is there any reason to like itemize the temple like we did in PoE 1?
Nah, so that was really more of a band-aid solution in PoE 1 because we didn't have an easy way to change that. Like I'd prefer that the temple is your temple and that you don't sell them, but just that all the rewards are the things that you can trade. Like trading the rewards was the reason why we did our temple itemization in the first place. Just if this time we're just making sure to design the stuff in a way that can be take back that you can take with you.
No need for the band-aid in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some really basic crafts that, like, you know, your classic exalted orbs and stuff like that. Mostly, honestly, in the campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is so when you're doing the tempo, you're getting not just the opportunity, like, because obviously some of that double corrupt stuff, you're not going to do that at like level 8, you know. I mean, Val orbs aren't even in the game at that point. Yeah. So you have this thing where it's like, well, you don't get a lot of the crafting. Now, there are still rewards. There is, of course, all of that, but there's also just basic crafts like exalts and regals and stuff you can just throw on your gear. Now, you can't take those, and that is an intentional decision so that you feel like you're actually wanting to use it on your gear in the campaign and as you're progressing. Yeah. And you're not, because if you can take it, most of the time you're just going to hoard it for endgame.
Right. So it's those things to make the early game have more crafting stuff that you want to just use right there.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, what stops you from just like keeping your results until end game?
Yeah,
You want to use those patches then.
You'll see those and go, I want to take that home, but just use it.
Yeah.
You know?
It was a substantial buff to campaign crafting from my experience of messing with it so far. It's like you basically go in and there's like 6 crafting rooms and you're like just going on a little crafting spree of like upgrading your gear. Like,
yeah, I mean the temple. We it's funny because there's always the question whenever we make a league of like, well, what if people always say, oh, there's no reason to do this during the campaign, and it's like really have to incentivize that to make it so that no, there's actually worth doing. Like you're going to get a substantial power boost if you decide to engage with the league.
Yeah, you could. It seems like you can kind of like hold off as well. Like you can be like, oh, my gear's kind of okay now. I'm going to do that a little bit later.
You always want it to be both feeling rewarding and give you obviously an advantage, and also not feel so mandatory that you're like, ugh, what?
Yeah, it felt like kind of a bit optional in the sense that like, oh, I really need some gear upgrades now. Let's go into the temple and spice up all my gear.
Perfect.
Nice.
That's what we want.
Yeah, cool. And it is interesting that you've got this like raiding the broken down version of the temple in the beginning, and then it basically changes into this whole other thing halfway through the campaign. That story beat there.
The other thing about the campaign thing is the same thing we learnt from Abyss, where we did the area-specific rewards throughout the campaign. We have also dropped
most mondja az érdekes.
From the in-world encounters. So even if you're not doing the temples, doing the in-world encounters can give you that extra drop per area.
It seems like on the back end, maybe you've kind of taken what Abyss was doing and almost shifted it over.
Yeah. There's some modifications, but it's the same kind of thing.
Well, we've effectively got our, allocated amount of rewards and crafting and stuff for what a league is allowed to do and should do, and we're just trying to make sure that, it fulfills that it fills that budget, so to speak. Of
you're getting a lesser jewels or been Keth or something like that, like kind of similar to before, which is good. But yeah, I was definitely, that was a huge thing with Abyss. I thought that was like a really good improvement to campaign, so it's good to see continuing with that. Then it felt pretty successful as a design decision. Nice. I'm really glad double corruption is back. I feel like that's a great thing from PoE1 to be returning.
One thing we've changed here
ez a double corruption,
is that
srácok.
because double corrupt existed in PoE1, you never Valorb gear. Well, I don't want to say never. Obviously, there are still cases, but generally speaking, why single corrupt it when you could double corrupt
Én
it?
egyszer sem szeretem
we've made sure
korruptálni
here
a
that the
dolgokat,
double
amit
corrupt
kétszer.
has to occur on top of a corrupted item.
That's cool.
Right.
So yeah, you have to Valorbs land it, and then you have to land the double corrupt on top of that.
Oh man, it almost feels like you're in some cases risking something even more, because like you've got that really high end unique with like a really good
Ki az, aki
corruption already,
poegyezett?
but now you're risking that. You're not just risking a blank item on a double corruption. So like it's a heftier risk now in some cases. Yeah,
I like it.
That's the Val spirit right there.
Like, oh man, this thing's already worth many divines at this point. I was like, oh no.
Some good streamer moments. So.
So you actually have to though, like it has to be crafted.
Yep, so you craft first and then you can apply the double craft.
Okay, cool.
Nagyon odáig vannak érte, de én nem szeretem ezt a korruptálást.
Yeah, I didn't want to Valorbs to just, you'd still use
Ahogy
them
mindig
on the
azon vagyok, hogy
but,
inkább elrontja a
I didn't
cuccokat,
want them
mint
to
hogy
just
valami
be
kurva
never
jó
used
lesz
on here
belőle.
anymore, because you'd rather just double corrupt it, and so it was a suggestion a developer made a while back, and I was like, that's immediately a win, and I almost want to change that in PoE1 as well, but then I just forgot about it, to be honest. So, I'm not sure if I do want to do that, just before everyone maybe goes.
Mi a véleményetek erről?
Consider it.
I like the idea.
Én nem szerettem már a Wastelandoknál se használni.
And then you've got this whole other system now, which you had a little bit of in PoE1 recently, where you can corrupt uniques and it replaces a random modifier on them.
Yes.
So this is limited to specifically Adziri. No, what
Not
is it?
Adziri, Val uniques. Yeah, so we initially, I really wanted to make it so you could just replace arbitrary mods on any unique. But
Crazy.
the problem is, yes, it was just a can of worms that like was just not even possible to contain. Yeah, basically what we were like, okay, is there still a way to do this that's like not going to be quite so crazy? And then we were like, okay, if we can pick a subset of uniques, and we ended up going with Val uniques, you know, for obviously thematic reasons, then we can sort of make sure that like while it's still crazy, like there's some sort of insane interactions, we can kind of at least have somewhat of an understanding of what happens.
Pedig egyszerűbb megtanulni egy craftolást szerintem. De itt van, ő már pro crafter lett.
You can create some.
Ő már nagyon tudja, hogy mit, hogyan.
It works differently.
Huh?
I don't know. This is news to me. I didn't actually know that. What is that?
Excuse me?
I think it's similar to Ancient Orb in PoE1, so it like re-rolls it. The idea here is like it's meant to work on these Val items because they've been like
Incompatible item error.
infused with royal bloodline blood, and so it's like the way it works on Val uniques is different to just random uniques. Where it's like, hold on, it works a bit more chaotically here, and you know, just changes the item entirely to something else on non-Val. So, and I only say that because obviously it's pretty bad to be
Ezt nem értem.
I have to have a Val unique in order to use
Mi az, hogy sok item van, és nem tudod, mennyit érdemes craftolni? Craftolni nem azért érdemes, hogy sok item van, hanem ha kell neked valami, akkor megpróbálod, tehát vannak metódusok, amivel elég közel tudsz lőni ahhoz, amit szeretnél lecraftolni, és akkor le tudod craftolni magadnak az adott geart. Na baszki. Érted?
It has like Soul Leader, and it's like a level 39 base type.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like
ehhez kell
this is a tool we could use to make that more in-game viable. And
ezt nem fogja senki neked megtanítani egyik pillanatról a másikra,
heavily increase the
hogy
defense.
Itt kell megállnod a craftingba, hanem ehhez kell a tapasztalat, hogy tud. Meg hát érted, a craftolsz valamit, és tudod, hogy mit szeretnél arra az adott hírre elérni, és látod, hogy valahogy nagyon rossz irányba megy a dolog, akkor te fogod tudni, hogy hol kell megállni. Ezen nem érdemes gondolkodni, mert ez jön közben. Tehát, hogy nem ez a nehézség benne, én szerintem. Nyilván tudod, mit akarsz elérni, és ha egy craft fázis nem abba az irányba visz, akkor ott vége. Tehát, hogyha úgy döntesz, hogy ugye te döntesz úgy, hogy ez mennyire éri meg neked még rákölteni. Ezt te fogod tudni egyedül. De nem ez fog meggátolni abban, hogy megtanulj.
If it works and works successfully, there's no reason that like some other mechanic can't do it for Ezomite uniques and other, you know.
Now, yeah.
So, you know, we'll see how it goes, but I'm hoping now, obviously, because I don't know how far through we'll get with all of these specific, because it's like a lot of stuff. Once you start doing specific things with specific uniques,
so many
it's
things.
a lot of stuff to implement. So I don't know how far, but I was like, let's start with the mythic uniques, the rarest, most powerful ones, and we'll work backwards, getting to the more common, you know, ones at the end.
I mean, you've also got just the general like buffing of a bunch of other uniques as well, right? I mean, there's a lot of that.
Yes, true. And I mean, that was part of that when I was like, okay, how can we buff this? How can we buff this? How can
Ez
we
a
buff
baj,
this?
hogy megvenni...
Well, a lot of them are like, this is too low level, and I was like, wow.
Megvenni is kell, hogy legyen...
So yeah, I mean...
nálad
we'll see how it goes,
értékes cucc, tehát hogy kell legyen mondjuk
obviously these leagues end up often going core
mit tudom én, Exile, Dorp, stb. És azt is hogy tudod összeszedni, úgyhogy ha craftolsz cuccot és eladod, vagy találsz cuccot, amiből tudsz már craftolni olyat, amit el tudsz adni.
I assume you're going to get some that have these. You would replace
mi a
the exact two
költséges
bad sides with the exact two.
craftolás?
You can replace more than one sometimes.
Oh.
Valamilyen szinten igen, de nyilván ha jól csinálod, van egy csomó videó róla, hogy érdemes, akkor az megéri, mert ki fog fizetődni végül neked.
Adziri uniques that she's dropping then, obviously, since she's kind of the queen of the Val.
Adziri uniques, Trial Master uniques, you know, like a bunch of stuff. So
it's a fair few there then. Is that something that you anticipate expanding upon in the future then? Like,
I mean, we'll be always adding more Val uniques.
Right.
So yes,
But in terms of for other cultures, that would probably come in a different form, in a different league mechanic or some other place like that.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
In terms of the overall idea of upgrading low level uniques.
Yeah. Did you ever like discuss the idea of Val's skill gems? It feels like weird to like add that when you're still adding regular gems.
It doesn't quite. So I mean, fundamentally, what a Val skill gem is in PoE 1 is like a kind of ultimate type style ability in some sense, So it's like we're kind of doing that in our normal gems at this point. So
megint megáll.
it didn't really quite make sense to do it here.
It's like the glory on the skills
glory
is kind of
like,
Val's.
Yeah, that's what I figured. That it's kind of like you'd only be really doing it for nostalgia value at this point, I think.
Now that isn't to say there won't be something in the future, but I agree that doing something like that when you haven't even got
Kéne egy-két olyan a szobámba.
all the classes and skills in place and all that. I would say that's like a post-release feature, not a pre-release feature.
Jobb oldali, amikor ott lecsapja a csávó a kalapácsát, aztán repül szét minden, ami a földön van.
Like challenges, challenge rewards, etc.
So
post-launch.
So the plan for that was post-launch. Like it basically was kind of like during early access, it doesn't quite make sense to do that. But post-launch we'll return to that again.
All right, shifting onto the topic of endgame, but first, just a brief detour. Trial of the Ancestors, or the mystery content in the new act, and our third means of ascending. What's the progress like?
Well, we don't have anything to say at the moment.
That's why új act is lesz most.
It'll need to come obviously at some point, but we didn't have time in this one certainly to work on that.
It keeps coming up.
Új Druid képek, igen, jó van.
When, at what cost, etc. The classic, just resource distribution kind of things where it's like, when are we going to do it, and what, instead of this, and we have all these different ideas, and so it's just
Ez jól néz ki, ez a kép.
So on endgame, firstly, thanks for nothing the delirium fog. You saw the memes, I guess.
For sure.
So I've been enjoying all the foggy memes everywhere. That's good. Visibility improvement for the endgame, but not only that, like you guys didn't just tone down the fog. You've done some pretty major things with the tablet waystone system.
I mean, the very first question, and before we even toned down the fog, the first question was, okay, well, why do you feel like you have to run every map this way in the first place, right? Like the fact that something feels mandatory is already a problem, regardless of the fact that the effect is also annoying, so that was the first thing to solve. And it really then started coming into, okay, well, like how, like people are finding waystone crafting more annoying, and we only made it more annoying in Abyss with the having to go somewhere else and get it, like it just made it not not particularly great. So the first question is, well, how can we fix this problem, right? Like and effectively we were kind of like, we can go two ways with this. We can either make it so that
Na, hogy érted, hogy kellene csinálni Poe 2 Collector's Edition ládát? Azt hogy csinálunk, és hogy nem értem ebbe a lényeget reptek.
Various different content that they can provide. So we decided to go with no
Én csináljak ládát, amit utána kibontok? Mi értelme van ennek?
Do something with it just would have been a pain. Which is why even in the live stream we're like, from this point on, just like waystones, they will get regular, they'll have the regular crafting, just regular base currency, but we're never going to add to them again.
Értem a lényegét.
A thing that requires you to do more crafting than that. Another layer of that, because I think that having to do that every map is too frequent. Doing it on the tablets means that it's just way less frequent that you have to do these things, which helps a lot. And then of course the question was, well, how can we make sure that we're not like doing a nerf to overall juicing potential here? So then we had to look into how can we get back the the power you had. So that's when we got into the extra mods on tablets and things like that. In order to sort that out.
Now, obviously, you were hoping to do more endgame for this expansion. So, what's kind of happened with the?
Well, I guess the sort of two things that we see as like the major problems in endgame. One of them is when you get there, it can feel like you don't really have a proper goal. Like you don't have immediate okay, here's a quest to do this and a quest to do that and that kind of stuff. So there's like a little bit of that missing, and that really is a content thing that just requires us to expand upon what a league is. Now, something like something like Fate of the Val, it immediately has story stuff to do and so on. So when that goes to endgame later, you'll have like storyline things sort of built in a way that can like make it so you've got that. But the other leagues don't have that as much, so we need to really make sure we're expanding on those. But the other thing as well is the Atlas tree just needs a lot more love and attention and like the way that it works and all that sort of stuff. So we just need to do a lot more there.
I opened that tree yesterday and I was like, oh, this sucks.
It's a little tragic.
It sucks.
Like so. But the thing is that in order to make it good, you have to spend a lot of time and attention making new notables that are cool, that require like actually modify things in cool ways and like actually really meaningfully do something. And that's just a lot of time and work to do that. So
do you have an idea for what you want to do with the ascendancy tree side of things? Like, is it kind of angling more towards what you've done in Path of Exile, which has been pretty successful?
Well, I don't think we should be talking about that yet, just because, you know, that'll be it's more for later. But yeah, I mean, there's things we want to do.
Yeah,
there's stuff we want
Yeah,
to do.
we're
not happy with it.
a bit of trying not to spoil anything here.
Yeah.
We obviously are spoiling the fact we are doing something. And I'll tell you, it's not even.
Hát valamit fognak csinálni az Ascendancy-kkel is?
You know, it's in a whole different universe. So it's kind of like, which makes it a little bit hard because obviously we're in this state where we want feedback about the end game.
Yeah, it's
and so I do want to put, like, people should keep giving feedback because I don't want people to think, they're reworking it end game anyway, so I'm not going to say anything, just in case. You never know.
There's
and
also different parts of the end game that kind of are like independent of the, you know, just things like how the Atlas tree works.
Yep.
So yeah.
But yes, that tree is effectively going to be completely reinvented. So that will get a full drastic change. And then the something that like PoE 1 with the whole complete your atlas being a very clear, very obvious goal. You just complete all the maps and you get your atlas is complete. And then there's heaps more beyond that, of course. There's all the boss farming and all the different progressions and even that has like multiple quests throughout the main quest line with the different pinnacles and all that. We just don't have any of that really. It's just immediately into this infinite unguided adventure. And there's a little bit of things with the corrupted zones and bit of that and like, you know, the burning monolith but it's still mostly unguided. You don't really feel like you have like, I've completed the main thing, now I'm going to farm, you know, at the moment. It's pretty unsatisfying, I'd say. So really trying to drive that home. And then the other thing that honestly, we spoke about upgrading the leagues and adding more bosses is like,
tehát, hogy nincs egy vezetett vonal, hanem csak beleültetnek abba, hogy itt egy unlimited maps, és akkor mehetsz, amerre akarsz, és szerintem ezen fognak változtatni.
There's pinnacles right now, and like honestly we need to up the epic a lot. So we've got a lot of that coming. And then just
hogy csak ezt 3%-et elvileg kéne kapnod, hogyha ja, mert te nem voltál Twitch-en, mert te YouTube-on vagy. Hát azt droppot csak Twitch-en kapod meg, ja. Aztán 45 percet kell nézni.
Adding more content and different axes and all kinds of stuff. So there's heaps coming. But based on all that, to answer the original, is that's how you can see how it didn't make the cut, because it is a ton of work. It turned out to be way more than we had anticipated. And it was just like, damn, we kind of talked about wanting to do an in-game upgrade, a big revamp in 040, and now we've got too much work, and we still believe it's the right thing to do, so we're going to commit. Normally we often get faced with the option, do we cut it down to make it fit, or do we commit to it all and do it? And I don't think in this case we could have cut anything without kind of just honestly making it look half-assed, to be honest. So we were like, no, we need to do it all, which means, unfortunately, yes, it's not going to make 040, but then we were like, well, we can't just now do nothing.
Ezért érdemes a Twitch-en is itt lenni,
obviously, we're not just going to be like, because we're doing an 050.
Sokszor, amikor ilyen drop van, és szerintem jövő héten biztos, hogy lesznek droppok, akkor azt csak Twitch-en kapod, YouTube-on nem.
Fogs, like the volumetric fogs in the game have a cutout around the player.
Yeah.
That like cuts out and then tapers off. And all fogs in the games, there's multiple different fogs, had it except for Delirium Fog. It was the only fog that didn't have this. So that was, well, like, we can start there by re-adding it, and then we'll iterate until we feel like it's about right. But yeah.
Így van, free weekend lesz.
When you look into these things and you're like, oh damn, it was just broken the whole time.
Hát aki nem tudja játszani, bár hozzáteszem, szerintem azt a 30 eurót megéri. 12,000 forint az nem sok. És annyit úgyis elköltenél az accountodra, tehát igazából nem kerül semmibe.
Your watch is complete. Yes, we can actually see the ground. It was just hilarious in some maps, whereas like they have holes.
De azok nem mostaniak szerintem.
It's like I can't move anywhere. It looked a lot better from the footage, so it's a big improvement for sure. So you
Azok
mentioned
nem
that, but there
mostaniak
was also another
szerintem.
kind of key change that you wanted to
Most
make
csak
sure
a
to get in this one,
Verdant
that was the,
Wilds
kind of
Dodge-ról
like monster
van.
density getting swarmed issue.
Yeah. That's a very interesting one because so when we were doing 031, this was actually already a thing that we were tabling and talking about. We kind of thought that players probably wouldn't like it because
Igen, most csak ez van. 45 percet kell
can be
nézni.
a very touchy thing, right? But the funny thing was is that what we found was that even after we like what we actually sort of heard more was like, oh, we actually liked what the improvements were early in game, and we actually would wish that the rest of the in game was more like that. And we're like, okay, well, if that's the case, then like the main thing we have to do is not like nerf rewards, make sure that experience gain doesn't get lowered or anything like that. But you know, overall, we don't necessarily need as many monsters as what we were having in the top. And I think this is actually going to also just generally improve things because it makes when monsters have more life like that, it makes more builds viable. And because like there's obviously a point where like once you can one hit everything. Then there's no point in like you might as well just go for whatever the fastest thing that could do that is, right?
Yeah, the lightning speed.
Right. So effectively, by making it so that monster life's a little bit higher as you get up there, it sort of actually means that like higher damage builds become more useful.
The need for having to target so many enemies goes down.
Exactly,
and thus
right.
You aren't just now funneled into the highest AoE thing possible.
So it means that like things that are less AoE focused and more like, I mean, obviously you're still going to want AoE, you're still going to want to be clearing like that sort of stuff, of course.
Yeah.
But like effectively, just by tweaking it down a bit, you just don't have the like so much need for everything to target quite so many things. And so you know, the sort of higher damage skills that are a bit less like, you know, not like more than a screen in size can actually be viable. And that should hopefully improve the situation there.
I want to make sure that even if people are like, but I prefer the swarminess, and it was fun for my build. And the thing is, like, that, speaking of, like, Atlas Tree, that's a thing where the Atlas Tree should be the thing thing that you can, it's like your build can do that. So, like, I want to make sure, like, for now, not doing it, but I wanted to do a thing, because we're doing this whole, like, monster effectiveness goes up more, right? I mean, it's a pretty hard thing to understand because monsters just get stronger with higher levels, so like it kind of just happens. You don't really, it's not like a thing you need to worry about or anything of the sort. But I want to do a thing where you can spec into making, like on the Atlas Tree, you know, I guess this is a little bit of a forward spoiler, but we're adding a little bit of it in a few places, but I want to make sure that you can invest into making monsters tougher without increasing the number of monsters, where like often it's just been pack size, and stuff like that. So but then I would love to do a thing later where like you can convert that effectiveness increases you can get into like pack size. So it's like, you know what? Nah, I want the swarmy, you know, weaker monsters thing. And I don't want one to, at that point you can make sure the conversion results in the exact same amount of drops and XP and all of that stuff.
That way you can incentivize.
Hát ugye arról van szó, hogy az Atlas-t próbálják úgy átalakítani majd, hogy kifizetődjön, de a karakterednek a buildjéhez megfelelően tud azt is buildelni, és olyan mapokat tudjál menni, ami mondjuk ha neked full AOE és akkor arra menjél rá, hogy ilyen kibaszott sok mob legyen, de ugyanúgy a drop rate meg legyen. Vagy inkább kevesebb, de erősebb mob, és úgy legyen meg a drop rate, tehát hogy érdekes.
It is too chaotic at a base level.
Right.
You get this weird thing where it's like the campaign has a entirely different vibe to the end of the endgame now, where it's like you step into the endgame, it's kind of a right, and then you get towards the end. I mean, at the start, for people who didn't play 031 onwards, it was just like, oh, okay, I'm going through the campaign, it feels a bit more tactical, feels a bit more, you know, intention, my actions are more intentional, and then I get into endgame, I'm like, what the heck is going on? There's monsters everywhere, it's out of control. And so obviously 031 alleviated this a bit, but it is, I don't want it to be that there's this feeling of there's two games there. I want it to be that you build that extra layer, that you change it through your Atlas Tree and through decisions you make for the endgame, as opposed to it just being inherent. So if you want to, we're going to make sure that we try and keep it that if you want to make it more swarmy and that kind of stuff, you can, but it doesn't give you a drop advantage necessarily over the tougher monsters. There are reasons to do both. That's fine. There'll be heaps of mechanics and stuff, but like, ideally, you can kind of play the game you want to play the game. And so in our tree and our builds, much like you can play the character how you want to play your character, we can do that with the end game as well. And that's the beauty of the Atlas Tree, so and the keystones and stuff like that. So but I can't. It's hard to get into more of that without getting into like kind of spoiler territory.
that's,
but yeah,
that's interesting to hear that you want to kind of
vásárlás.
make things a little bit less binary. Where like in the past, it often has been the case where it's just like, oh, you just stack as much of all of the things you can stack, or it's just stack as much pack size or stack as much rarity as you can. But maybe having angles for both of those things, like I'm juicing pack size, or I'm juicing difficulty and rarity with. I mean, that's exciting to me because I like the ability of being able to spec content that rewards your character that has low AoE, that is like really good at like dueling really tough rare monsters. And like, you know, we did get to see a little bit at Imperial one where there was different strategies for juicing where like you had like Titanic Scarabs or something that was making like really strong rogue exiles, and that took a specific sort of build to do. So it sounds like that's kind of the direction you want to head with that, which is pretty exciting to hear. And kind of tying into this topic then, and you touched on it a little bit, was like, there's definitely been, like, it's been noticed that rare monsters seem to drop the vast majority of loot in endgame maps, or at least compared to normal and magic monsters. There's a bigger difference, I guess, than has been the case in the past. And where are you guys at with, like, noticing or feeling that, or what problems do you foresee with that? It gets talked about a lot.
I don't think it's necessarily wrong that it's like that. One of the things we really want to try to make sure of in PoE 2 when we're sort of doing a sort of from scratch pass on this is that the amount of rewardingness of something is equivalent to the amount of difficulty that it takes to kill it.
And that's kind of
where, like we're trying to normalize that because by doing that, it means that we can try to get like we don't want a situation where like some content just is randomly just way more rewarding than other content, and so we're trying to just make sure that we're keeping tabs on that really well. And what that's kind of ended up with regard to the magic versus rare is like we've got the balance of that where it should in an ideal world be the case that like killing a rare versus killing a white monster is does in fact drop the correct amount of rewards relative to each other. Now the issue can come with the fact is what if you're building one hit either of them in any case. Well, so that kind of like changes, I guess, the way that feels a little bit. So, but as I said, it should be the case that rares drop more than white monsters, and white monsters can drop anything. Still, it's just
it does make a certain amount of sense, but I guess like with what you were talking about, Mark, it seems like something you'll have to think about because like if you want it. If you want both strategies to be viable, like the pack size juicing, then there needs to be a reward, a payoff to that ultimately.
100%.
So that's something you'll be looking at then.
But I mean, as far as I'm aware, it really is the case that if you looked at entirely just around the life of the entity, the drops should be pretty equivalent to the amount of life that they had to in order to kill them, as far as like relative to each other. So if it's got 5 times as much life, it does 5 times as many more drops effectively. Like that's kind of what we're shooting for when we're trying to balance this stuff.
Yeah, I think with the balance of how things are and the options we have now, it probably makes sense. But yeah, it looks like something you'll be keeping close eye on moving forwards then.
For sure.
There's a bit of a parallel with one of the kind of issues I see in Path of Exile 1 where like everything is in reward icons, little floating symbols. And that seems like something you're trying to avoid moving forward.
We haven't really been doing that for a little while now. There was certainly a period there in PoE 1 design where it was like every single league was just like those reward icon type things, and it ended up really beiging the rewards a lot because you just had this thing of like every league drops, every other league's drops, and it kind of didn't really like it wasn't really that great. So it's going to be a little while since we've done that stuff in PoE 1 even, and in PoE 2 we kind of steer away from it to make sure that like everything feels like it's got distinct drops and a reason to do it and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean it appears in some regards. Like for example, when you get the reward rooms in Fate of the Vow, you have a unique item room.
Sure.
Like, but it's not just like a floating symbol above the monster.
Right.
Yeah.
Which also, immersively, I don't know what the heck that is, but what is it? It's just nothing. It's a clear and just obvious game mechanic.
I see some like floating, glowing cash money dollar bills above your head. Guy's loaded.
Whoa. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. You can't have my loot. But I just remembered you spoke about rare monsters and I was like, hold on, I don't think we deployed or spoke about this change, but I know that taking away all the rare minimap icons was a bit anger inducing. Because honestly, we knew it. We knew it was going to be.
Yeah.
Now, they aren't a requirement of the map, but as you're saying, they kind of drop a lot of the loot, and people were just doing the whole coasting between minimap icons. The middle ground we've come to here, which I think is quite cool, is once you've activated all the checkpoints in the map, which sometimes is 4 too, the things for fast traveling and respawning, then all of the things
appear on the minimap.
The
The funny thing is I thought we already deployed that.
I don't think we have.
Okay, right.
That's what I was just remembering.
We intended to deploy that back when people were complaining about it, and I feel like maybe we just kind of forgot. But
So
that
you
was
just
implemented a while
play your
ago.
map. You generally find the checkpoints. If you're in a straight line map, there's one at the start, one at the end.
Yeah.
How the heck are you missing rares? Anyway, I don't know, but it can happen.
Yeah.
But it doesn't just reveal the rares; it reveals everything. Not every icon.
Yeah.
So strongboxes you missed, rogue exiles you missed.
Yeah. Just so basically you can find if there's
Ó,
any
ez
content
király, tehát hogyha felfedezed a checkpontokat, ha jól értettem, most kicsit lemaradtam az elejéről, de ha felfedezed a checkpontokat, akkor az összes fennmaradó olyat, amit kihagytál, elitek, rogue exile-ok, ládák, blablabla, bla, azt mind mutatni fogja a mapen. Az király.
I mean, like, if there's generally speaking, if you've got like a big square or circle map, you're going to have 4 checkpoints. You activate all 4. You've at least explored probably 75% of the map, right?
Yeah, it's about getting those last things, and
and then it's like, okay, look, you're now allowed to see if you missed anything.
But then you can also use the checkpoints to get to the closest place where the stuff you missed was, which is kind of nice. So yeah, it kind of helps with that. So we did finally find a solution.
I'm hoping this is a good middle ground.
Yeah.
Because so then at least you've done 75% of the map, probably without just doing blind mini-map gameplay. And then from that point on, it's like, look, yeah, I get it. You probably missed something. You know where it is.
Nem fog érte egyébként
It should actually maybe overall be
$160.
even more helpful because it's not just revealing the rares.
Szinte
It's going to
biztos
reveal
vagyok
even more.
benne.
So you'll know about everything else you missed. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I understand that was a bit of a aggravation for a lot of people. But that's a perfect example of, again, it's it's why I don't want people to not give feedback, because like this kind of stuff still should be fixed pretty imminently. And so yeah, it's
a good case
az egy t-shirt, az nem a kapucnis hoodie, az egy póló, amit odaír, az egy t-shirt, nem? Ja, $160. Jó, hát kapsz egy csomó mindent, persze, értem, de
what you're doing
nem tudom.
Yeah, it seems like it's saving the players that feel like that they're FOMOing because like, I know I missed like a league mechanic in the map somewhere after this, like that is really bumming me out, and then they have to go and crawl back through everything and waste a bunch of time, so that's just kind of saving them that.
Ez király lesz egyébként.
Nice little extra bonus reveal there. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Az Atlas szerintem azt most még nem alakították át, de azt tervezik.
Probably should have put that in the live stream if we hadn't deployed it yet. But yeah, everyone forgot.
It's in the Q&A. Good stuff.
Yeah.
We shall move on to kind of gear and passives, and this is in the topic of balance and character power, and this sort of stuff has been talked about a fair bit. Something that's mentioned a lot is that the ratio of player power that comes from gear versus what comes from ascendancy and passives is much more tilted towards gear than in Path of Exile 1. And so kind of like roughly for an example, like the average PoE 2 passive is like 10%, whereas the PoE 1 passive is 16%, whereas the amounts on gears are pretty similar. So like the 100% increased fire damage on a wand is consistent as tier 1 affix between both games, meaning that like more of the power has kind of been shifted away from the tree, the thing that you get by default, to gear. So this seems like a conscious decision to make gear more powerful. Is this something like you've thought about or made like specific strides towards?
Probably the main thing that we wanted to do in PoE 2 was make it so that the tree is more like we're trying to be a bit more stringent about how the tree is multiplicative with what your gear does. That does make gear more important. I wouldn't say there's necessarily been a thing of like necessarily wanting to the amount of power overall that you get from one or the other is more unbalanced, but it's just making sure that like when you are using the tree that it's specializing your character more towards what the bonuses that your gear is giving you to kind of make the two things together. Like be sort of important to be thinking about both. So that was kind of our primary goal, but I don't know if you've got a different feeling about any of that.
It certainly wasn't like the passive tree being weaker. Like I guess we didn't really even think about it in the point of comparison. We just kind of like went back then. We went really back to the basics and evaluating a lot of our base balance, and so it wasn't like let's nerf it compared to PoE 1. It was more just like what do we want gear to do? What do we want the passive tree to do? What do we want? And all of that at the end of the day is just relative to then how do we want the monsters to scale and which they're all different. right? The way that the monster scale per level isn't the same. The way
Ja,
that
most arra beszél, hogy a po
the
1-hez
tree-
képest,
the
hogy a
tree
gear
benefits
és
are
a
different, the
passive
gear
tree
is different and
milyen
everything. So,
arányban
again, not
erősíti a
really- it was
karaktert, és
conscious
hogy ez
decisions, but
volt
not conscious
a
decisions to, like, you know, nerf from
kérdés,
PoE
hogy ez
1,
hogy van, de mondta, hogy igazából mivel máshogy
that being
szkéleznek a
said, yes,
monsterek,
I mean,
meg
I don't-
minden nincs ez, hanem próbálják ezt
couple
úgy
other things, I mean,
balanszolni,
we
hogy
made,
a
for example,
gear is
the decision that,
számítson,
like,
meg
we
mit
wanted
tudom
the
én.
class starts on the tree to be weaker than the exterior. So
Yeah.
generally the nodes are meant to go up a
Érdekes.
little bit in power as you get further away, so you don't just get the like class hopping kind of thing that historically occurred in PoE 1
Yeah,
quite a
where the
bit.
class starts were strong.
Meg a
you know,
ugye
the
hol
M,
van
the M and the
egyel,
top and
én
stuff like
nem
that. And
nagyon
so
játszottam
that was a
sokat,
decision we
szóval ott
made.
nem tudom, hogy működnek ezek a dolgok.
But yeah, I mean, I guess we did
De
kind of have like,
leszarom,
we want
hogyha
gear
működik
to
a
be
PoE
more
2-ben,
important,
nekem az bőven
especially
elég.
base gear. I think we maybe overcooked it.
Hát
a
ez
little bit
kicsit
right now,
drága,
but-
igen, egyébként.
just a little bit with, well, more the ease of it, the ease of getting it, but that's a whole crafting discussion, I guess.
Talk about that too.
More of an in-game problem. But yeah, I would say, I mean, I'm personally pretty happy, honestly, with how it is. You know,
Just that like ratio of importance of
Hát
team
eljutottam
commitments. I
endgame-ig
guess,
PoE
it's a question
1-ben,
of
van
how
benne
much
80
power you
órám,
free, right? Like, ultimately,
de-
that's what it comes down to is like, if my
de
gear-
nekem a
if I'm
PoE
able,
1 az,
like, yeah,
nem
like,
tudom,
how powerful
az
is my
már
character
afelett nekem
from just the tree?
valahogy
And
engem az
that's
nem
like a
tud
little bit
annyira
more, I think, in PoE
megfogni
2.
már.
And the reason
And
for
that
that,
bothers some people, I
Well,
guess.
the reason for that
sajnos.
specifically is because the tree is more multiplicative than it was in PoE 1.
Túl
with those
komplikált
multi-space
ahhoz, hogy
stuff.
belőjem azt a sok időt, hogy
there.
megtanuljam
I mean, you can look at
normálisan,
even
az a
simple things
baj.
like, you know, just life on the tree, for example, right? Like that's sort of another example.
Bár lehet, hogy a PoE
Part of the
2
thinking there is, like, you know,
tapasztalattal bár kicsit könnyebben benne, de
the more
lenne
base
ott
stuff is
pár
available
dolog,
on
amit
the tree,
meg kéne
the more
tanulni, az
the
biztos.
same characters can be because they can just allocate the same stuff and get the same stuff without having to worry about the items. So yeah, that's kind of just
obviously
one of
that's
the
not
things.
entirely based.
Egyébként nekem az is tetszik, mert az igazi ARPG feeling, ez a dodge-os, ez nem az az igazi ARPG feeling.
Yeah.
De ez is tetszik, meg az
and
is tetszik
we're out
nekem.
on a life thing, just like since you brought it up, I guess, like, still pretty happy with the decision to like remove that from the tree.
I mean, look, we just wanted to. We just didn't. It's more that decision's mostly about not wanting every character just another one of those cases of every character being the same.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like we'd rather you specialized in the defense that relates to your character rather than just the same stat that every character should use. So yeah, we'll just have that general feeling.
I mean, we've obviously still got imbalance here,
Yeah,
and there's obviously still work to do.
Yeah.
Never ending. So, like, you know, the tree will just continue to evolve, and like we added a lot of passives at some point that are a lot more powerful, and we intend to keep doing it. And now we've obviously just added all the druid ones, but not just that. Like, we added more like ignite support on the around the mercenary. You know, for example, this time, like as in 040, we're doing that, and then there's some changes to like,
nem
more
ismerem
frog
azt a
speedy stuff because
játékot.
like we were like, you know, looking at shotguns and trying to see how can
De
we
úgy
have more
érzem, hogy
scale.
amit
It's like
érdemes
we
ettől
can
ebből a
get a bunch
zsánából
of
ismerni, azt
piercing, frog speed
ismerem.
and some other stuff. You can shoot them across the screen, and so we're like, well, how do you get that? Oh, there's not many, you know. So we're doing a bunch of like little increments
Diablo
like
4
that,
lehetne
just
az
based on what
egyik,
builds
de
need. I know bleed needs
nem
a
az.
bit more love in the bottom right, and you know,
Még mindig nem
to
az.
make it not just entirely all blood mage spear users and that kind of thing going on. So again, it's gonna just honestly we'll just do more and more and more and more and more on the tree. I suspect you'll get more. I'm not saying I'm going to increase the value of every node, but just by the nature of how many more things you can invest in and multiplicative elements, you're probably going to end up with a lot more power coming from the tree than what you do right now. But I actually prefer it doing it that way than just increasing all the numbers anyway. Because at the end of the day, if we increase all the numbers and then it turns out the game is like too easy,
hát ez ilyenekre nem szoktam ránézni
or
se.
just buff monsters, and then you kind of end
Nem
up in it's
véletlen.
kind of the same place. So it's like, what did you actually achieve?
Ez mikori bugi?
So with the like approach to life then, which I feel like makes sense, like not wanting the trees to like look the same and whatnot, how do you feel about like why does ES kind of get a separate treatment when it ultimately, although it's a defense like evasion and armor, it functions much more like life? Because there's a lot of ES scaling and ES numbers are pretty high compared to life, and definitely
I mean, that's a current balance issue for sure, but like, you know, just because it happens to function more similar to life, they're all at the end of the day a form of effectively HP, right? So, I mean, they just, as long as they're not entirely symmetric, which is what makes them interesting, which is why one works this way and the others work a different way. And but yeah, I mean, there's clearly a misbalance. I mean, you got issues with Ghost Dance obviously being
Early
a bit
access.
hectic, and
I guess
It's going to start listing off things I'm going to nerf, I suppose. But, you know, like, I don't know. There's changes to be done here. There's a few changes coming. But we're at the point where I still look at it and I'm like, I'm pretty sure ES is still going to be pretty crazy. That being said, it's like, you know, I don't want to make any last minute kind of knee jerk reaction nerf kind of things around this. So like, because we've changed and rebalanced so much, it's really hard to know.
Ilyen balanszolgatásokról beszélnek.
It's kind of hard to know exactly how things are going to play out. So it's this kind of thing where I'm like at the point again where I'm like, all right, let's get all these changes out, see how the metas evolve, see what's good, see what's bad, and then like reevaluate it again. So ES is worse, but I don't think it's honestly, I don't think it's nerfed enough, to be honest. Is kind of where I'm at with that. So, but we'll see. We'll see.
Little nudge in the right direction, perhaps. But I know in the past when we talked about this, we discussed around the idea of like letting energy shield values be high, but really focusing on the recovery side of things and making that like you just said, like making things not homogenous, making things different. Like life's really easy to recover, but energy shield's much harder to recover. Like you still kind of.
That is still the intention, yes. That is still the intention.
I like that.
It's just really easy for all of a sudden some cool design to come out and then all of a sudden it's just a completely trampled recharge.
Yeah. Yes.
And then it's just like, well, now why do I care, you know? And I mean, like, it's okay sometimes if it's like via an insanely, like, I mean, Essentia Sanguis is a perfect example of doing this, right? Like, it just straight up ES leech. And the thing is, like, I don't want to take that away. I just, you know, there's a level of, there's some balance to do and or commonality to do. Like, if that's a thing you strive for and can eventually achieve, and now your character's like freaking god tier, that's exactly what like high-end unique items should do. So in this case, you know, I know we're making that item rarer. Hopefully that doesn't affect the economy too much with some me giving that away. But on standard, sorry. But at the end of the day, I would rather do that than just gutting it. You know what I mean? In this case. But yes, those things are allowed to break the rule. But I very much want to push ES to be recharge based. And as I said, yeah, historically, it's again, you just come up with a bunch of uniques and want to do all this cool stuff. And all of a sudden, we've added in another way to completely not care about recharge, and you're getting.
Ez annyira nem érdekes, amikor ezekről van szó, nem, de?
Happened, and more of that came about, and all of a sudden now, yep.
Kaptásban talán olyan lesz, mint a Last Tipok. Reméljük, hogy nem lesz annyira, hogy mondjam, fizetős is. A Last Tipok. Végül kibújt a szag a zsákból a Last Tipokkal kapcsolatban.
Still missing classes and
nem, de fizessi a karakterekért, azért az beteg.
It probably makes it hard to like commit too hard to certain areas of balance when it's such an.
Nem tudom, már csak ilyen balanszolásokról beszélnek, meg az energy shield visszatöltés, meg hogy endgame unikok hogy segítenek ezen, meg melyik balans ultra OP, meg mit tudom én.
How fast can the new stuff break the existing stuff, and how fast can we then fix that? And it's you know. When I say break, I mean balance break. You know, it's to the point where it's like all these new variables are being added as we're trying to fix all the existing variables and balance them, and these new variables are like, you know, it can be hard, like real difficult. When you're at the point where you're not adding so much new stuff, you can just catch up, get to a point of stability, and for sure it's there. We have expanded, like I've got 3
az már régen rossz, mert anélkül az, hogy csak eladják a játékot, és nem lesz semmilyen mikrotranszakció, nem fogják tudni fenntartani, hogyha ez egy online szolgáltatáson alapuló, tehát szerveren alapuló, már pedig minden játék olyan manapság, nem fogják tudni fenntartani, az a baj. Az már akkor halálra van ítélve konkrétan.
So hopefully, and historically we've had quite a limited
Szerintem ez, nem tudom, egyre érdektelenebb, amiről beszélnek, úgyhogy ezt megnéztük. Köszönjük szépen. Nézzük meg ezt a Titan Quest 2-t, mit szóltok? Csak kíváncsiságból. Titan Quest 2 Honest Review. Na tessék, a Rax csinált róla.
It's Rax. Titan Quest II's early access released today, which is the sequel to the famous ARPG from multiple decades ago, Titan Quest I. So I downloaded it, installed it. I beat all the content in early access, and I'm going to make a quick video telling you my opinion on it, the good and the bad, and finally give a summary about might help you decide whether you want to buy it or not. Quick disclaimer, I was not sponsored to stream it. I am not sponsored to make this video, so this will be a truthful, unbiased review. But even if they had sponsored me, it would have been the same deal anyway. But that matters to some people, so not sponsored. Let's start with the good. The most important thing you can get for any video game, Titan Quest II got right for me. The game was fun. I genuinely enjoyed my time right from the beginning up until the point where I beat it, where if the full game was out, I would have continued playing. I really enjoyed zipping around, using all the different skills, building up my character, navigating through the world. All of it, it just worked. Some people have complained that they don't like the slower pacing. It's definitely slower, more like a game like PoE 2 is right now, than it is like, let's say, a PoE 1 or a Torchlight, where you're moving at the speed of light. But the slow pacing didn't bother me at all. I thought everything worked. As you can see, like you open a treasure chest there, you get like one item. But I love that. That helps you. It makes me want to engage with the loot a lot more when I have one item to look at rather than, 5,000 items dropping everywhere. And there are loot explosions, by the way. They do reward you for like the epic battles, which is another thing that I really liked. I thought the bosses were pretty cool. Didn't see a whole lot of them because, as we'll get to later, the early access doesn't have a whole lot of content. But the bosses that I did fight, I thought were very interesting, and finally, after beating them, getting the loot explosions was very satisfying. One thing that I know Titan Quest did very well, that I can see them doing very well in this game as well, is the class fantasy. I'm playing an ice mage, as you can see. I'm throwing the ice shards everywhere. They're freezing enemies. I could easily spec into thunder, and there's like this dual class system, which is another great thing about the game, where the theory crafting is definitely there. You can mix and match a lot of different ideas, especially as they expand out the game. They've got, stat points, they've got your skill, the skill tree, and they have like divinity points, and they have, I think they're called attribute points. So a bunch of different systems that you can mix and match also with the dual classes to theory craft a lot of different things, which should give it a lot of replayability in the future. If ARPGs are fun for you for making a lot of different builds, this could be a great game for you. Another thing that I thought that's very important, that felt good for me in my early access playthrough, was the upgrades that I would get, whether it was advancing through the skill tree or getting better items, felt meaningful. So as an example, early on, I put a few points into mana regeneration, because as I saw the mana costs of my spells going up, I figured I would need to spend some in there so I wouldn't run out of mana. Well, it's true, I never ran out of mana, but then I was like, well, do I really need these points or not? So then I spec'd into more damage, and not only did my damage go way up, I was able to tailor it exactly in a way where I would never run out of mana and just maximize my damage. Stuff like that felt very, very good. So the options are there, the theory crafting is there. I can see that being a huge selling point for the game in the future. Another thing that I really thought they did a good job of from what we saw is a lot of the different zones genuinely felt different. Whether it's the different biomes or going through this dungeon, it's got different elevations, you're climbing cliffs, you're
Abban
going
ezek a
on
játékok,
different
hogy
cliffs,
már
like underneath
mindegyik
waterfalls,
tök
there's
ugyanaz
grassy areas,
igazából,
swampy
tehát
areas.
hogy
I'm sure there's much more coming.
nem mutatnak ezek olyan nagy
The whole
újdonságokat.
landscape of the world felt very
Érted, ez
good.
is jó, a másik is jó,
And then
hol
one
is
thing that I think
jó,
would be
ilyen
good
alap,
for
valamilyen szinten
maybe
nyilván a
anybody who
Diablo
isn't
4
like
is
a
jó, vagy
super
Diablo
crazy
3,
tryhard in
Diablo
ARPGs
2,
is it gave me a
Last
very
Epoch is
strong
jó maga módján
classic
nyilván.
ARPG experience.
Tehát, hogy
If
az
you've
a baj,
ever
hogy
played an
már lehet, hogy már ez már egy ilyen
before,
lerágott
the
csomag. Minek
systems
ennyi
will
ilyen
feel
játékot
natural to
csinálni?
you. I didn't encounter
Ugyanaz
any
van
like
itt is, mint a
crazy
többiben,
mechanics
érted?
that didn't make a whole lot of sense, that felt like I needed a PhD in order to play it. So if you're looking for something a little bit more relaxed to make a cool build, class fantasy, and just go through, Titan Quest 2 seems like it's going to be a great choice. Now let's move on to the bad stuff. And I'm going to start with the most obvious thing here. And remember, this is an early access. By far, the biggest problem with Titan Quest 2 is the amount of content. So just to give you an example, I only did one playthrough, and apparently everyone was telling me the build I made was super OP. Okay, fine. So maybe it would have been a little bit different if I had made a weaker build. But I played for 4.4 hours, got to the end of the early access, and did a ton of side quests. I didn't do all of them, but I did a lot of them. So 4.4 hours of content, you're paying $24 for early access. So no, you're not paying $24 just for one act of content. You're going to be a part of the development process, and I assume we get the full game, of course, for this price when it actually comes out. What will be the end game price? I don't know. $40, $50, I have no idea what it's going to be, but you get it for a cheaper price. But if you're expecting to pay $24 for like a full games experience, this is a million times closer, if not completely, a demo of the game rather than an actual full game to play. So if you're the kind of person that's kind of uneasy about it and you want to wait and you're willing to pay the higher
Azt mondja, hogy lehet, hogy be fogják
price to see if the
számítani
game
ezt a
actually launches in a good
$25, amiért
state,
most megveszed, de egyelőre még ez nem túl játszható.
As far as I could tell, I did some research. I didn't see any roadmap for Titan Quest 2. They give you a notice at the end where they say like new content will be trickling in, but I don't know when or exactly what is coming.
Ez konkrétan 4,4 óra, vagy 4 óra alatt végigjátszotta $25, az nem túl jó
But I
arány.
don't think that they know what that end game
Igen.
is. That might be wrong.
Hát egy
But that's what
casualnak
I'm hearing,
10
so
óra.
I'm telling
Ja.
you what I know right now. That's what I know so far.
Hát erre nem fizetek $25.
Another thing about the
most.
game, I mean, you can see it for yourself here and make your own judgment, but I'm going to give you my opinion. Is I think the graphics are mid. And I want
Ja, a
to be
grafika
very
az elég
specific on what I'm
közepes, igen,
talking
ezt
about here.
akartam is
What
mondani.
I'm not talking about is the art style or the art direction. I think the UI, I think the
Ja, tehát a UI nagyon gányul néz ki, az egész világ is olyan, nem tudom, tehát olyan eléggé közepes.
I love that. I'm good with all of that. I'm talking about the actual quality of the graphics. In the beginning, I had to sit
Nem
there
bugi,
and
majd mindjárt
mess
elmondom
with a
miért nem.
bunch of different settings to try to get it like playable. And
Ugyanazért,
everyone was
amiért a
spamming in my
Rensport
chat
nem
that
lesz
they were having
szimulátor.
very, very similar issues. Again, it's early access. They could definitely improve these things, but this is definitely
Nyilván
something
még
that I'm
változhat,
hoping
nem
that
azt
we're going to hear
mondom,
from them.
de
They're going to update the graphics, clean up the graphics. Like when I was swinging my sword or shooting my bow in the beginning, it was like all blurry on my screen. I zoomed in and I showed people like, look how blurry this is. Do you see this? We were just sitting there tinkering with all the different settings, trying to make it as good as we could. The graphics need to improve, in my opinion. I don't know how else to say it. One counterpoint to one of the good points that I made. Remember how I told you the game is simple. It's not genre, or it's simple. It's a classic ARPG experience. Sometimes you just want to chill and play
ne viccelj már,
good
bugi.
old-fashioned ARPG and have some fun.
Erős
I
a
did not
tartalom, mi
see
erős
anything in
benne?
this game that was in any
Attól
way
félsz, hogy nem
genre
tudod
advanced.
végigjátszani, vagy?
And
Hát én
honestly,
se öltem még
I was
a
talking to
fő
Mods
boss-t
about this, and
egyébként
I agree with
hozzáteszem,
his take.
mert hogy
Where he
még
was
addig
saying a
nem
lot of times
jutottam
when
el,
people
de
try anything
ez csak azért van,
genre
mert nem voltam elég
advancing, it usually
kitartó,
doesn't
tehát
go
hogy
well. So
valójában előbb meguntam,
maybe
mint
this
hogy
isn't so much
eljutottam
of a
volna
negative, but I
odáig.
do
Bár
want to
igazából már
mention it.
szerintem eljutottam odáig,
If
csak
you're
meg kellett
looking
volna
for
ölni, és
something like,
kész.
if you're looking for a new and a fresh take on
Hát jó, csak a Last
ARPGs,
Epoch-nál
it's not
azért most
Titan
lesz
Quest 2.
egy-két
The
kiadás,
skill
hogyha akarsz
tree,
még
the
ezzel valami
passives,
plusz.
the ability points, the attribute points being required to put on your gear, the gear color progression, walk forward, kill the trash, kill the boss, go to the next spot. It's the good old-fashioned formula that we all know and love. So if you're looking for a new experience, Titan Quest 2 does not appear to be it unless they're going to release something later in the future. So I put that in the negative column if that's something that you care about. Again, overall, I had a lot of fun playing it, even though there wasn't much to play. 4.4 hours dead, or I was done standing there. I think I was max level. I think the max level is 20. 20, just standing there. Okay, I could do the whole
Most
thing
level
again on
20-ig
another
lehet
build,
nyomni.
but I think I'll let them cook. Should you buy the game? Well, you should definitely buy the game if you like Titan Quest 1 and you're for sure going to buy Titan Quest 2 when it's out, because it's just...
Na, nem is nézem tovább, mert ebből is kiderül számomra, és ez az, amit szoktam nektek mondani, hogy ránézel egy játékra, és ránézek erre itt, és őszintén, akár felőlem lehet alfa is, meg mit tudom én, de ránézek, és nem kap el az az iklet, hogy bazd meg, ezzel játszani akarok. Atya, ezt hol lehet megvásárolni, érted? Amikor ránéztem annó ugyanebben az állapotában a New World-re, hónapokig nem bírtam más videót nézni, csak New World videókat a YouTube-on, amíg meg nem jelent a játék. Tehát ez a különbség. Játék és játék között. Ez olyan mediocre, olyan átlagos. Tehát, hogy láttunk már ebből a zsarrából 100 millió játékot, ez a 100 millió egyedik ilyen. Semmi extra olyan dolog nincs benne. A PoE 2-ben van. Azért ott a kinézet, ahogy működnek a karakterek, az egész játék egyébként, hozzáteszem, már az elejétől kezdve sokkal jobban leköti a figyelmemet. Lehet, hogy abban már ott több tudás van a mögöttük, vagy nem tudom, ez nem. Tehát ez nekem tök középszerű játéknak tűnik. Nem hiszem, hogy valaha én erre pénzt fogok költeni. A Last Tipok is olyan volt, hogy tök jónak tűnt, de azért voltak fenntartásaim, de jó mondom, nem kerül olyan sokba, vegyük meg. Nem játszottam vele túl sokat, mert nem tudom, tehát, hogy túl sokat nem játszottam vele. 100 órát, valami 110 órát, tehát, hogy onnantól kezdve nem kötött le az se. Nem, ez a Titan Quest 2, ez... Meghagyom másnak az örömöt, maradjunk annyiba. A PoE 2 az nem tudom, miért erős tartalom. Szerintem pont ez a lényeg, hogyha van benne tartalom egy játékban, akkor lesz az igazi. Hogyha van tartalom mögötte. És ott van. Egyre több tartalom van. És jönnek az ektek, és stb. Tehát, hogy igazából szerintem az tök jó. Nem lesz kifogásod? Hát most nem lehet, mert Druid jön. Úgyhogy most nem lehet kifogásod. Azért figyelj, amit bemutattak, vagy amit láttunk, ilyen gameplay rész, mind a maci, a farkas, az a sárkány, a tornádó kasztolos, mindenféle vihar, lightning kasztolos cucc, szerintem mind baszó volt egyébként. Még talán a farkas tetszett a legkevésbé. Pedig én talán inkább afelé szoktam a legtöbbször eltolódni, az ilyen agility buildek felé, de megmondom őszintén, jobban tetszett a maci is, meg a sárkány is így első blikre.
It's inherently unclear even to us in some sense. Like we can't say like the number of the like what, okay, but that sounds a bit weird. But what I mean by that is like it's not like that when you get that it just increases currency. Like it's through like 10 layers of like different ways things work that kind of result in an overall in currency increasing.
You mean like the content?
Nem tudom, azt sem tudom előre, hogy milyen irányba kéne menni. Nem is akarok rajta gondolkozni, ez majd ott eldől. Próbálgatjuk dolgokat, gondolom, aztán majd ott eldől.
It is a result of multiple systems on top of each other working to result in that, and that's why like the only way for us to even know like what it even does is by simulating.
Igen, de a farkasnál meg ott volt az a jönnek a kis farkasaid, és akkor minden fagyasztasz, mert minden azért az se rossz az. Az se tűnt rossznak. Én általában nem szeretem, hogyha ilyen állataim vannak, én azt szeretem, hogy én magam vagyok az erő, nem az állataim, de nem szeretem az ilyen summoner dolgokat. Hát ja, nem látunk belőle szart se. De én nem szeretem az ilyen minion buildeket, én pont azt nem csipázom. Én azokat nem szeretem. Én már Diablo 2-ben sehol nem szerettem az ilyeneket, ahol ilyen summoner dolgok voltak. Én ott is mentem, emlékszem a Necróval, és nem is summoner buildem volt, hanem olyan, ami ezeket a csont dolgokat dobálja ki magából, meg mit tudom én. Csontokat lövöldözi, mindegy, hogy nevezzük. De ott is ez a direct caster. Én nem szeretem az ilyen minionos dolgokat valahogy. Az nem én vagyok. Nyilván biztos tök jó, de nekem valamiért az nem annyira tetszik igazából. Én nem tudom, amikor már ilyen specifikus dolgokról beszélgetnek, ez miért érdekes annyira, tehát nem tudom, lehet, hogy érdekes, de franc tudja. Igen, pontosan én is így vagyok ezzel. Én magam, az én karakterem legyen a harcos, ne a minionok, amiket megszummonálok. Nem tudom, sose szerettem az ilyen summoner dolgokat. Például a Lastipokban is ott volt ez a solymos dolog, hogy ott a solyom lecsapott, meg izé. Az már olyan félig meddig olyan summoner dolog volt végül is, de még nem annyira durván. De már ott is azért úgy voltam vele, hogy nem tudom, szóval kicsit sok az.
And you don't really want things to be like the same power level ultimately. Like it seems like
Hát kíváncsi leszek. Hát jövő hét pénteken toljuk. Ja, látszik is, már csak 35 000-en nézik. 61 000 helyett.
So, you know, that's unless you're making the monsters 40% stronger and they are sticking around and then you're freezing them.
Yeah, I mean, because we're doing that.
Na jó. Összességében mi a véleményetek arról, amit hallottunk egyébként? Szerintem egészen jólnak tűnik így karácsony előtt. Milyen jutalomra gondolsz, Reptile? Kaptál egy dodge roll animációt. Mit szeretnél még kapni? Ne legyél ilyen kis telhetetlen. Hát kaptunk dodge roll animációt, hát nem elég? Szerintem jónak tűnik. Érdeklődéssel várom, főleg így karácsony előtt, meg az embereknek is egyre több idejük van ilyenkor játszani. Talán főleg karácsony környékén, ugye ünnepekkor, ott mindig több a szabadság, ilyesmi, úgyhogy szerintem lehet rá számítani, hogy sokan leszünk, az egész biztos. Érdeklődve várom, hogy mi lesz ebből. Vacsora GGG srácokkal? Hát majd meséld el, milyen volt. Én jobban szeretek itthon megvacsorázni egyedül, de nekem nincs szükségem ezekre a srácokra. Ja, úgyhogy szerintem én mindenképpen érdeklődve várom ezt az egészet, meg a druidát, meg úgy egyébként, hogy mik változnak, meg hogy változnak. Amit nem tudom, megfigyeltetek-e, de szerintem jön egy olyan változás, hogy láttátok azt, hogy a régi unikokat használták egyébként. Tehát azt, amit a liga előtt még emlékeztek, a Monkommal én is csináltam, még az attribute stackerrel azokat a gíreket használta. Na, az érdekes. Az érdekes, hogy azokat visszahozzák. Az barom érdekes. Tudjátok, melyikre gondolok? Az a hülye sapi, meg az a bot. Hát nem tudom. Szerintem az nem véletlen. Szerintem az rohadtul nem véletlen. Én nem tudom, de... Szerintem az nem véletlen. Hát de elférnek, csak... Persze, csak hogy ugye itt változtatgattak azért dolgokon, és hát hogyha most azzal például megint azt használni lehet, és működőképesebb lesz. Nem tudom, csak ezen gondolkoztam, hogy mennyire fog az működni. Nem tudom, kíváncsiak, jövő héten kipróbáljuk, azt tuti. Hát addig még lesz azért, nem tudom, majd lehet, hogy még ezt az Evo-ba, nem tudom, mit lehet még kipróbálni benne, azon kívül, amit kipróbáltunk egyébként. Lehet, hogy annak is adunk még egy kört, majd meglátjuk. Ugye iRacing az most addig nem lesz, még el nem indul a szezon, hogy tudjam, milyen pályákat kell megvennem, hogy ne kelljen rá túl sokat költenem. Úgyhogy addig biztos, hogy tarkovozunk, viszont jövő hét pénteken indul este a Path of Exile 2, és onnantól kezdve 4 napon át, péntek, szombat, vasárnap, hétfő, az biztos, hogy Path of Exile lesz, és utána meg valahogy majd meg felváltva fogok poézni, meg tarkovozni a szimulátorozás mellett. Meg lehet, hogy most jön az ünnepek, és lehet, hogy lesznek ilyen egy-egy olyan stream, ami ilyen lazulós fun stream. Még nem mondok semmit, de ja, az ilyen más lesz. De majd tudni fogjátok azért előre, szerintem. Úgyhogy, ja, most itt az ünnepekkor majd lesznek. Lesz itt mindenféle jó. Meglátjuk. Én nagyon várom a druidát, meg a Path of Exile-ből ezt az új ligát. Az király, hogy az Abyssból berakják a régi cuccokat. Szerintem, már hogy azt beépítik a játékba egy bizonyos szinten, és az is benne lesz, az szerintem nagyon király, mert az szerintem hozzáad a játékhoz mindenféleképpen. Ez az új liga mechanika, erről még nem tudok mit mondani, hogy ez milyen lesz, vagy előre láthatólag, biztos jó. Meglátjuk, mennyire lesz szórakoztató igazából, ezt nem tudom megmondani. Ez az Abyssalos, ez kurva jó volt, nekem ez nagyon tetszett. Ez benne is marad egy részben a játékban, a jó részei benne maradnak, ahogy láttam. Úgyhogy az király. Hát rossz részei nem voltak, csak volt az a boss, tudjátok, ahol voltunk, hát az uncsi volt, nem tudom, meg nem dobott semmit, meg gyűrűt lehetett csinálni, nem tudom, az nem tetszett, az a része lehet, hogy nem is lesz benne, de viszont cserébe benne lesz ez, úgyhogy az királyság, többit meg majd meglátjuk, nem tudom. Várom én is. Aztán kiderül. És aztán lehet, hogy kitalálják ezt a druidot is érdemesebb Deadeye-ból csinálni, nem? Azért az lesz az érdekes. Mert ez az, ami nagyon fura ebben a játékban, hogy igazából nem vagy így megkötve. Igen, nem vagy így megkötve, és ugye beszéltek is erről, hogy más karakter is beteheti magának ezt a talizmánt, ami azt teszi lehetővé, hogy átváltoz valamilyen állattá. Na hát ez így érdekes lesz. Druid varázs nyílbild, azaz. Én nem tudom, érdekes, mert ugye iszonyat változatossá teszi a játékot, másrésztről pedig nem is tudom, tehát, hogy iszonyat bonyolult is lesz tőle, persze, viszont a variációk végtelen tárházát nyújtja, szóval ilyen szempontból is egész jó, de pont ezért iszonyat sok időt kell beleölni, hogy az ember rá tudjon jönni magától nyilván újabb és újabb buildekre. Szerintem mindig vannak újabb és újabb buildek, amire egyébként nem jönnek rá az emberek valahogy, vagy nem tudom. De hát annyi verzió létezik, hát most is hozzáadtak még 130 passzívot a passzív skill tree-hez, ami már így is egy ilyen gigadurva valami. Azt átlátni. Idővel, ha látod benne a logikát, akkor természetesen sokkal könnyebb átlátni, de azért így is brutál durva. És szerintem még mindig vannak olyan dolgok, amit még nem találtak ki. Vagy amire nem találtak rá. Lehet, hogy valami AI-t kéne ráküldeni, hallod, hogy csináljon valahogy a fasza buildeket, nagy DPS-es optimalizált buildeket, a PoE 2 skill tree-t figyelembe véve, meg a spelleket. Rá kell küldeni a ChatGPT-t, azok, hogy mit mond rá. Így kíváncsiságból, nem? Vajon mi alapján csinálná meg a buildet, és mi alapján választanak karaktert hozzá? Nem tudom elképzelni. Mert ugye nincs semmi, amivel letesztelhetni, hogy most melyik a jobb, meg rosszabb. Miről tudnak még ennyit beszélgetni?
To obtain the really high-end gear, how much of an effect have you seen in terms of like players kind of making the game easier? Like, has the game gotten a lot easier overall for people? Are people like reaching their final product earlier?
It's really hard to tell how much of it is the trade system and how much of it is the crafting changes. Like, it's actually really quite hard to disentangle.
So what about as an overall picture?
Yeah, I mean, look, but at the end of the day, it's like the crafting system the trading system as it is something people just need to have. So, like, we just have to, work within that.
I'll tell you, like, if we have a in-game itemization problem, we're not going to go and say we need to nerf trading.
Good.
Right.
We're past that. We can put that in our review mirror. Excellent. Yeah, so the question is, like, I guess now more just adapting over to that. I'm just curious, like, as to how extreme it has been, because it seems like it would be absolutely massive, like crazy. But
it's honestly quite hard to tell, as I said, due to the other changes.
I guess it's like a longer period thing to analyze.
But then at the end of the day as well, you could say that if this is a feature we need to have, then it doesn't necessarily matter. Like, we just need to work with it and just deal with it. So,
I know in the past there was a fear, and this kind of touches on crafting a lot, where if people could craft like really good gear super easily, that they would stop playing. Like, the player retention would go down. I feel like in some cases we've seen some of the opposite phenomena. Like, there is to an extent the opposite phenomena where, like, people gain access to the builds they want to play, they gain access to content they might not have otherwise in a more reasonable time frame for them. So their engagement and the amount of time they play ends up going up as a result, like, in a surprising twist.
That definitely can happen, but at the end of the day, like, retention isn't exactly the reason why we do it. It's because we sort of feel like, if we did want to make getting the hardest gear harder, then the reason we would be doing it is because we don't like the feeling that you can get of, like, I don't have anything else to get. You know what I mean? Like that would be the reason to do it, not necessarily because of retention reasons. You know what I mean? Like it's more about the play experience, to be honest. Because you know, when it comes right down to it, like our model has always been, we want to keep you coming back every league. Like we don't necessarily care how long you play a given league for. We just want to make sure that you, each time you play a league, you're enjoying your experience, that you want to come back and play the next one. So.
Nem tudom, most beszélek dolgokról, de pont erről jutott eszembe, hogy az érdekes, hogy vannak ezek a ligák, seasonök, Diablo, meg itt Poel, meg mit tudom én, és egyiknél se érzem már azt, hogy végig játszanék, amíg meg nem jelenik a következő és következőm. Mindig valahol abba hagyom, mert egyszerűen már hideg elhagy. Lehet, hogy én vagyok már túl idős, és megváltozom, és már nem érdekelnek annyira ezek a játékok, mégsem, csak a régi feeling miatt, de valahogy nem, vagy nem kötnek le annyira, mint régen egyszerűen. Nem tudnak már annyira lekötni, és ez a fura, hogy vajon miért nem? Tehát mindig kell egy kis változatosság, és akkor ott hagyom. De pont ez az, hogy régen baszki évekig játszottam egy játékkal, érted? Nem kellett más, csak a WoW, meg csak a Diablo 2, meg jó, azért ott is volt, hogy nem csak Diablo 2-ztem, de érted, azért ott volt olyan, hogy sokáig csak Diablo 2-ztem mondjuk, vagy csak, nem is tudom, chase-tem, vagy csak PUBG-t. Volt olyan, hogy 3 éven keresztül minden nap csak PUBG-ztam. Semmilyen más játék nem ment, érted? Semmilyen más játék. És most már nem tudok 3 hónapot egy játékkal. Nincs ilyen. Egyszerűen. Nem is akarok egyébként, de már nem tudok. Ja, hát én nagyon, amikor bemutatták a PUBG-t, akkoriban éppen chase-tünk, és akkor egyik nap chase-zés után így páran ott maradtunk, és akkor mondták, hogy ja, menjünk PUBG-zni. Mondom, mi ez a PUBG? Ja, hát jöjjek én is. És akkor mondom, hol kell letölteni? Hát meg kell venni. Jó, akkor mondom, megveszem. Jó? Azt mondták, jó. Ha mondom, jó, akkor megveszem. Megvettem, azt se tudtam, merre van az előre, baszki. Ott játszottunk, és annyira rákattantam, hogy abba hagytam mindent, és 3 évig csak PUBG-ztam. Sokan abba hagyták, én nem. Az első 3 évet azt végig PUBG-ztam. Azóta megváltozott úgy a játék, hogy most már nem annyira szimpatikus, mint az elején volt. Bizonyos dolgok miatt, ezért nem játszom vele, meg ja. De egyébként az elején baromi sokat játszottam vele. Imádtam PUBG-zni. Imádtam. Igen? Még szoktatok néha nyomni PUBG-t? Én már nem bírom. Már meglátom a skineket, és a hideg végigfut a hátamon, meg a szőr feláll a hátamon, baszki, hogy ez... Nem tudom, nekem ezzel rontották el az egészet. Ez így van, ezért jó a Tarkov is, mert hiába csinálsz ugyanolyan questeket, meg minden, de nincs 2 egyforma raid, ahol ugyanazok történnek. Pont ezért jók ezek. Igen. Engem se érdekelnek, csak látom, amikor jön velem szembe a transvestita nyuszinak öltözött akárkicsoda, és így nem bírom ezeket elviselni. Egyszerűen. Ezeket a skineket nem bírom már, amiket oda beraktak. Túl, nem tudom, az egész olyan furi. De volt valamikor tavaly, vagy mikor, valamikor PUBG-ztunk egyszer talán. Ja, azt hiszem a Janival PUBG-ztunk egyszer, vagy valami ilyesmi volt. Arra emlékszem. De nem streameltük, hanem csak így off-stream valahogy játszottunk PUBG-t, vagy valami ilyesmi volt, emlékszem. Én nem tudom ezeket poénnak felfogni, tehát amilyen kompetitív játék, azt sose tudtam poénnak felfogni, azt vagy olyan szinten komolyan veszem, nyilván nem halálosan, de tényleg legalább olyan szinten tudod, hogy nyilván az a cél, hogy chicken dinner, tehát hogy mindig. Nincs olyan, hogy leugrok, aztán majd belerássolok mindenkibe, az lesz, ami lesz. Engem így nem tudok. Ja, én ezt nem tudom poénnak felfogni, az ilyen skineket. Pont ez a baj, hogy velem, hogy én ezt nem tudom poénnak felfogni. Mert szerintem nem poénos. Pont ez a baj, hogy én ezt túl komolyan veszem, hogy Tarkovot se játszanám, hogyha tele lenne ilyen skinekkel, de ott nincs, érted? Ezért tetszik a Tarkov, mert az megragadt annál a valóságos kinézetnél. A PUBG is ilyen volt az elején, csak aztán telibaszták ilyen hülye skinekkel, és az teljesen elvette a kedvemet. Ez totálisan. Meg az új mapeknek, tehát amíg volt az Erangel, az jó volt, amire már bejött, eleinte nem tetszett, de aztán az lett a kedvenc mapem, az bejött a Sunhawk, azt utáltam, mint az állat, a mai napig is nem szeretem azt a mapet valamiért, túl sok a faj, és nem tudom, valahogy azt nem szeretem, és aztán jöttek az újabb és újabb mapek, és aztán volt olyan, hogy nem mehettél specifikusan csak egy mapre, hanem ugye mindig random, és akkor így, akkor hagytam abba. Amikor azt mondták, hogy nem választhatom ki, hogy én melyik mapen akarok játszani, akkor azt mondom, hogy köszönöm, akkor nem akarok tovább játszani. Igazából ez volt nálam a fő megállító erő a PUBG-nál, hogy elvették azt, hogy én mondjuk csak Miramaron, vagy csak Erangel-ön játszak, és ott találjon. Meg hát ezek a botok, azok se tetszett egyébként, a botok se. Már az sem tetszett igazán. Úgyhogy... Ja. Nem tudom, én valahogy ilyen vagyok, de például a WoW-ban is, tehát nem véletlen a Vanilla az egyik része, ami a legjobban tetszett a WoW-nak. A többi már a mostani retail, már nem is játszom vele, nem véletlenül, mert nem. Nekem az eredeti játék, ami megfogott, azt tetszett, amióta megváltozott olyan formában és olyan mennyiségben, ami már nem szimpatikus, akkor már igazából nincs kedvem vele játszani. Általában. Fura, de így van. Na mindegy. Hát itt már nem beszélnek túl sok olyan dologról, ami nem tudom.
Ice Ranger changes. I think that's like a massive improvement. To the Ice Ranger kind of play. I mean, using the existing skills, a lot of numerics, a lot of changes to ice fragments, stuff like that. What else is not in there? There's a few other bits and pieces not in the patch notes, and that's because all of our stuff is, and that's just not to say there's nothing changed. I've just taken them out for now because I want to make sure they're right. Otherwise, we have to give some false information and then change it, and it's not great.
You've been updating the patch notes over the course of a week now, so people should still probably expect that.
Yeah, for sure.
Initial patch notes coming.
I know they were like, I mean, I think we ended up changing something like 80 different unique.
De elvileg mindjárt jön ki a patch notes.
Again, mostly focusing on endgame ones, boss ones, mythic ones, working our way down the rarity. So like more of the ones that are meant to be higher value and meant to be higher effort. We've demoted some to be more common. We've promoted some to be rarer, stuff like that. And done a whole pass. But even then, like I know last night we were like, oh, there's like kind of 5 or 6 here that we're like maybe on the fence about. Let's to be safe, pull them out, discuss them, reevaluate them, and then pull them back in the patch notes afterwards. Just to be safe, because again, I don't mislead people.
I saw a question about that from our resident summoner expert in chat. But the monster changes, like for making specific changes to monsters for specters, does that end up in patch notes? That seems like pretty hard to track.
It will this time. Nice. Well, I don't think we've done much in the way of actual specific monster changes this time around, but this, what I was talking about doing will, yes.
Okay.
It just what I'm saying is it won't be in the initial set of patch notes because we haven't finished them yet. So, but they will be, like, I think the patch note says, will be in a post later this week.
Oké, tehát az még majd később a héten lesz.
Like, when can we get more melee variety? I'm like, you guys literally just added like a new melee weapon. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but the talisman's a melee weapon.
No, melee is never right in any game ever. No, I mean, because it's kind of true, right? Like,
there's a funny phenomenon right now where it's like, whenever we talk about melee, people say that like there's literally only maces in the game, and it's like quarterstaves are over in the corner crying. It's like no one pays any attention to it.
Yeah,
It's
but
just like doesn't count as well.
But
It's like a half ranged weapon, I guess.
Stormwave really melee, you know? Then you get that.
There's always this funny exception with it, but like ultimately, I think what it comes down to is that the game doesn't have swords.
Yes,
yet.
I know.
Is that,
I know. We need swords. Yeah, I get it.
We need swords.
We need swords.
So swords are.
funny.
From talking to you, it sounds like swords. Swords are getting added to the game at some point.
At some point we will have swords. I can promise you that.
Na, nem lesznek most kardok. Azt mondja, valamikor lesznek, de most még nem.
Too fundamental, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Are a bit cool.
But yeah, I mean, we were talking about the ascendancy. So yes, a lot of numerics, some more broader changes, some getting a little bit, some getting a lot. Like just because it's getting a little bit doesn't mean we think it's in the right spot. At the end of the day, we've just started going. Like Smith and Katava got a decent amount of changes.
Nice.
You know, kind of a lot better now for sure. We like over nerfed it. But yeah, lots of like, around the. I mean, honestly, like I want to say 90% of all the balance changes are probably in the direction of taking underplayed and underpowerful things and making them a bit better.
Nice.
That isn't to say that we've successfully made, like maybe at the end of the day, lightning archers are still somehow better than ice archers at the end game. But certainly the gap has narrowed and you'll feel less bad for playing one over the other, and less bad about decisions. And so that's ultimately the goal, and we'll get there eventually. But yeah, huge step in the right direction, I'd say. But yeah, and then things like Outer Louis, you know, all those outliers on the top end, those are coming down a bit, for sure. Sometimes more than a bit, depending how extreme they were.
Na jó. Számomra már ez nem annyira érdekes igazából. Srácok, jövő héten meg fogjuk nézni a PoE 2-t. Holnap folytatjuk a Tarkovot. Csapatjuk neki ezerrel. Ja, aztán ezt az ACL volt, ezt majd meglátjuk. Jó lesz ez a Druid, szerintem megvan a hype feeling, tehát hogy ki kell próbálni és mindenképpen nyomni kell vele egy kört, mert szerintem jónak tűnik. Úgyhogy ezt jövő héten valószínűleg én ezzel fogok kezdeni, aztán lehet, hogy utána csinálunk is majd egy monkot is, majd meglátjuk mennyi fér bele az időnkbe, de egy Druidot azt mindenképpen ebben a ligában azt ki fogunk próbálni. Úgyhogy, ja, holnap folytatjuk, srácok. Holnap Tarkov lesz, holnap után is. Kicsit nyomatjuk tovább a küldiket. Ma már fáradt vagyok hozzá, úgyhogy ma már nem. Meg hát akkor megint újra kéne itt indítani a YouTube-on a streamet, meg mit tudom én, úgyhogy macerás. De a YouTube ez macerás dolog. Úgyhogy várlak titeket holnap is sok szeretettel. Örülök, hogy ma itt voltatok. Megnéztük az ACL-vót is. Végül egy kicsit azzal, fura módon az a durva, hogy ameddig az alap setup volt betöltve az autóhoz, szinte alig volt valami érzés, tapadásra, egyébként bármi. Aztán amikor a GT3 BMW-t kicsit ott bütykölgettük a setupot, akkor már ugye egészen jó volt, de hát nem tudom, azért elég furi még. Azt kell, hogy mondjam. Nekem a többi szimulátorhoz összehasonlítva elég furi, de meglátjuk, mi lesz belőle. Úgyhogy várlak titeket holnap is sok szeretettel. Addig is mindenkinek további jó Twitch-ezés, YouTube-ozás, játszás, pihenést. Legközelebb találkozunk holnap. Sok szeretettel várok mindenkit, és jó ét mindenkinek. Szevasztok, srácok!
Yo, step into the stream, it's sipping 127. Twitch TV where the gaming's like heaven. From shooters to strategy, he's got the range. Tune in, hit the follow, it's time for a change. Sippy Yoing 7's live, bringing that heat. Hunt, showdown skills, you can't compete. Assetto, Corsa races, feel the speed. Join the community, fulfill your need. Started from the bottom, now the views keep rising. Stream so lit, it's no surprise, man. Sippy's got the vibe, you know we stay thriving. Chat's always popping, energy's high, and Sippy 7's live, bringing that heat. Hunt, showdown skills, you can't compete. Assetto, Corsa races, feel the speed. Join the community, fulfill your need. Started from the bottom, now the views keep rising. Stream so lit, it's no surprise, man. Sippy's got the vibe, you know we stay thriving. Chat's always popping, energy's high, and Sippy 7's live, bringing that heat. Hunt, showdown skills, you can't compete. Assetto, Corsa races, feel the speed. Join the community, fulfill your need. Late nights, bright lights, gaming non-stop. Sippy 7's the name, we rise to the top. Followers glowing, the grind don't drop. Join the fun, be a part of the crop. So hit that follow, don't miss the show. With Sippy 7, man, you already know. Showdown, Assetto Corsa, let's go. Twitch TV/Sippy 7, join the flow.